Imagine, you spent 2 years perfecting a product. I mean, your website is absolutely flawless.
Right.
Your branding is beautiful. You've tweaked every single feature until you are convinced this is the greatest thing to ever hit your industry. And then you finally launch.
And let me guess. Crickets.
Exactly. Absolute crickets. You make $0.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, your competitor, whose product is objectively terrible like, their website looks like it was built in 1998.
Oh, yeah. The classic late 90s aesthetic.
Right. But they are making millions of dollars a year. So what if you were told that you could have a completely terrible product, be absolutely awful at sales, make a ton of devastating, catastrophic mistakes in your business, and still make a massive amount of money?
I mean, that sounds like terrible business advice, right? On the surface, anyway.
It really does. It sounds like a scam.
Yeah, but the scenario you just described is actually the brutal reality of the market because, we are conditioned from a very young age, like both in school and in traditional business advice, to focus entirely on the
The
deliverable.
product itself.
Exactly. We're taught to, perfect the product, refine the pitch, eliminate all the errors before we even think about showing it to the world.
Right.
But the premise that a flawed or even a terrible business can out-earn a perfect one, it's entirely possible. It is a daily reality for a select few entrepreneurs.
But there's a catch. Right.
Oh, massive catch. That reality is only accessible if you possess one very specific, highly leveraged survival skill. It's a skill that basically acts as an almost infinite safety net in a really unforgiving business landscape.
Okay, let's lay out the mission for today's deep dive, because we really need to unpack this. Today, we are exploring the foundational section of Alex Hormozi's framework on generating attention.
Specifically, we're diving into Chapter 1, Section 1, the origin story.
Right, the raw, disastrous origin story that forced him to master lead generation in the first place. So you are about to learn why obscurity is your biggest enemy and why transforming your business into a lead-getting machine is the ultimate shortcut to financial invincibility.
It really requires a fundamental shift in where you put your daily energy as a business owner.
So where do we start?
Well, if we zoom out and look at the bigger picture, everyone wants to skip straight to the part where they're making money.
Of course. That's the fun part.
Yeah, it's human nature. You desire the end result without wanting to assemble the machinery that actually produces it. But business operates on a very strict formula, and you simply cannot bypass the prerequisites.
And that formula is offer plus leads plus sales equals money.
Exactly. The sequence is non-negotiable. You need the stuff to sell.
That's the offer.
Right. Then you need people to sell it to.
The leads.
Yeah. And then you need to get those people to actually hand over their credit card, which is the sales, put all this in place, and only then do you make money.
But the author points out a critical flaw in how people approach his previous work, right? Because
Yeah.
he wrote extensively about creating a grand slam offer.
He did, yeah, which is brilliant for figuring out what to sell.
Yeah.
But having a world-class offer immediately introduces a glaring new bottleneck.
Right, because suddenly you have to answer the question, who do I sell this incredible thing to?
Exactly. I mean, strangers can only buy your product if they actually know you exist. And getting strangers to know you exist requires generating leads.
Which sounds simple, but I know the author mentions spending like 6 months just trying to figure out a straight answer to what a lead actually is.
Oh, yeah. Because if you ask 10 different marketing agencies, you will get 10 different highly technical answers.
Right, like pixel fires and bounce rates and all that Silicon Valley jargon.
Exactly. But the source text strips all of that away and brings it down to the absolute most basic functional level.
So how does he define it?
A lead is simply someone who has a specific problem that needs solving and they have the money to spend to solve it.
They have the problem and they have the money.
That's it. It completely reframes how you view your audience. It's not about, follower counts or likes or how many impressions you get. It is strictly about those two qualifiers.
That makes so much sense. Yeah. Because someone who loves your content but has no money is just a fan, right? Not a lead.
Right. And someone who has money but doesn't have the specific problem your product solves is just a bystander.
Yeah, so the fundamental unit of business growth is that intersection of pain and purchasing power.
Perfectly said. But recognizing that brings us to the massive hurdle that trips up almost every first-time entrepreneur.
The obscurity problem.
Yes. The obscurity from.
This concept is fascinating to me because it is just so pervasive. I was thinking about how to visualize this, and it's like being a Michelin star chef.
Okay, I like this. Go on.
You've spent decades perfecting your knife skills, understanding flavor profiles, sorting the rarest ingredients, and you create this culinary masterpiece that would literally make food critics weep.
Sounds delicious.
Right. But you are cooking this masterpiece in a restaurant that has no doors, no windows, and no signs outside. You're just standing there in a sealed concrete box holding a great plate of food.
That is a brutally accurate analogy. You have the stuff, but you have absolutely zero strangers to sell it to.
Exactly. And your potential customers aren't rejecting your product. They can't. They are simply completely ignorant of your existence.
Right. It's the ignorance of existence problem. But the deeper question we really have to analyze is why? Like, why do so many smart, capable, highly educated entrepreneurs willingly lock themselves in that sealed concrete restaurant?
Yeah, why is the build it and they will come mindset so deeply ingrained in our culture, even when all the data shows it absolutely does not work?
I think it fundamentally comes down to psychological comfort and the avoidance of pain.
How so? Like the pain of rejection.
Exactly that. Tinkering with a product in private is safe. When you are adjusting a logo or, tweaking a feature on a website, you control all the variables.
No one is judging your half-finished work.
Right. No one is telling you your idea is stupid. You get the steady drip of dopamine from feeling productive, telling yourself, oh, I'm working on the business.
But you're really not. Not the part that pays the bills.
No, you aren't. Because the uncomfortable reality of forcing yourself to be seen, of stepping out of that sealed restaurant, grabbing a megaphone, and shouting at strangers on the street, that invites immediate, visceral rejection.
Because the market doesn't care about your feelings at all. When you step out and ask for attention, people might ignore you. Or worse, they might tell you your Michelin star dish tastes like garbage.
Exactly. Marketing and lead generation require immense vulnerability. It requires exposing your offering to the harsh light of public opinion.
So entrepreneurs unconsciously hide behind product development.
Yes. They use perfectionism as a shield to avoid the psychological pain of marketing. They convince themselves that, well, if the product is just a little bit better, it will magically market itself.
But the source text makes it brutally clear, right?
Right.
If people don't know you exist, the quality of your product is a mathematically irrelevant variable.
Mathematically irrelevant. That's a great way to put it.
There's actually a great little family jingle in the text that the author uses to cut right through that perfectionism. He says, "It's hard to be poor with leads banging down your door."
I love that quote because it just completely reorients your priorities. Before you optimize your supply chain, before you refine your customer service protocols, before you do literally anything else, you have to cure your obscurity.
You have to solve the ignorance of existence problem.
And the primary mechanism you use to force strangers to find you so they can actually buy your stuff is advertising.
And advertising is introduced here not just as a tool, but as forced discovery. That phrasing completely changed my perspective on it.
It's a powerful reframe, isn't it?
It really is. You aren't just, putting a billboard up and hoping someone happens to drive by. You are actively forcing strangers to consume your message.
Right.
And this brings us back to that massive provocative claim we started the deep dive with. The idea that advertising lets you have a terrible product and still make money.
Yeah, the author is framing advertising as the ultimate business safety net. And to understand why, we really have to look at the unforgiving nature of early-stage entrepreneurship.
That's pretty cutthroat.
Oh, it's brutal. In the startup world, second chances are incredibly rare because capital is finite. Usually, if you launch a bad product, you burn through your cash runway and your company dies.
Game over.
Exactly. If you misjudge the market even a little bit, your company dies. But if you possess the internalized skill to advertise, to systematically and predictably generate leads, you effectively grant yourself an infinite number of chances to get it right.
Wait, hold on. I need to play devil's advocate here for a second.
Go for it.
If mastering advertising allows you to make money, even with a terrible product, aren't we just giving people a blueprint to become, like, snake oil salesmen? Doesn't this philosophy just flood the market with incredible marketers selling absolute garbage to unsuspecting people?
That is the most common and honestly valid critique of direct response marketing. And it is a trap that many opportunistic marketers do fall into.
Right, we've all seen those terrible ads for useless products.
We have. But if we synthesize the author's broader philosophy, the nuance becomes clear. The message is not an endorsement to keep your product terrible.
Okay, so what is it then?
The message is that mastering advertising buys you the oxygen, meaning the time and the cash flow required to actually fix your product.
Okay, let's break down the mechanics of that.
Yeah.
How does cash flow from a bad product actually fix the bad product?
Well, when you start a business, your first iteration of a product is almost guaranteed to be flawed.
Because you're just guessing mostly.
Right. You are operating on assumptions, not market data. And without a system to get leads, those early flaws are fatal. Nobody buys, you run out of money, and you go out of business before you can iterate.
But if you have leads,
Exactly. If you have a massive influx of leads, a percentage of them will buy even the flawed version. This generates revenue. You then use that revenue to hire better engineers, improve your fulfillment processes, enhance customer support. You iterate.
so advertising doesn't excuse a bad product. It funds the evolution into a good one.
Precisely. It's a shield against the fragility of those early days. You are effectively getting paid by the market to figure out what the market actually wants.
That is a huge distinction. The leads give you data points. If a product flops, but your advertising machine is generating, say, 10,000 leads a month,
Yeah.
you aren't dead.
You're just learning.
Right, you have 10,000 people you can survey to ask, hey, why didn't you buy? You take that feedback, you pivot, and you sell them the adjusted solution.
The flow of leads buys you the time to survive your own initial incompetence.
I love that phrase, survive your own incompetence. And the source text backs this up with some truly staggering data to prove this isn't just, theoretical posturing.
Oh, the numbers are wild.
The Authors Holding Company, Acquisition.com, generates over $250 million in annual revenue across a highly diversified portfolio: software, e-commerce, brick-and-mortar, digital products.
All of it.
And the engine driving all of that is generating over 20,000 leads per day.
Let that sink in. 20,000 individuals every single day raising their hands with a problem and the money to solve it.
It's hard to even fathom that volume, but the even more important metric he shares is his lifetime average return on advertising. He states it's 36 to 1.
Yeah, a 36 to 1 return.
That means for every single dollar he feeds into his advertising machine, he pulls $36 out. That is a 3,600% return on investment. I mean, I want to pause on that because that number sounds almost mythological compared to traditional investing.
It does sound fake if you don't understand the math behind it. It requires a deeper look into the mechanics of customer acquisition cost versus lifetime value.
Right. Walk me through that.
When he says 36 to 1, he doesn't necessarily mean he spends $1 on a Facebook ad today and a customer hands him $36 tomorrow.
Okay.
He is factoring in the lifetime value of that acquired lead. So if it costs him $100 in advertising to acquire a new customer, that customer might spend $1,000 in their first year. And then they continue buying recurring services or higher tier products over the next 5 years, eventually generating $3,600 in total revenue.
The compounding effect of acquiring a customer who stays.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He explicitly states that while some titans of industry built their wealth in real estate or algorithmic stock trading or private equity, he built his entire fortune simply through the mastery of advertising.
And as we know, a skill is really only as valuable as the disaster it is capable of saving you from.
Oh, man. This is where the story gets intense.
Yeah, the author doesn't just present these concepts as sterile, theoretical marketing principles. He grounds his entire philosophy in a devastating personal nightmare.
A literal $150,000 disaster.
Let's dive into this story, because it serves as the emotional crucible of the entire text. It is the absolute nightmare scenario for anyone who has ever signed a lease or hired an employee.
It really is.
So the text sets the scene. In March 2017, the author and his partner, Layla, are working at their desks. She taps him on the shoulder and says they have a problem.
Never a good phrase to hear.
No, never. She shoves some accounting books out of the way, pulls up her laptop, and turns the screen toward him. And he describes seeing a literal waterfall of refunds cascading down the screen.
Yeah, he notes the specific number scrolling past: negative $99, negative $499, negative $299.
And he makes this really poignant observation that every other number flashing on that screen was more than his monthly rent at the time.
Just stomach dropping.
Layla tells him that members at a gym they had just launched in Kentucky were demanding their money back en masse.
And the reason why is just insane.
The owner of the gym, the guy they were partnering with to run the location, had literally stood up on a chair in the middle of the facility, told all the brand new customers to go home, and instructed them to get their money back from the author's company.
Why? Just because he didn't want to do the work.
Basically. He simply didn't want to deal with the influx of new business. They sent him too many leads. And on top of that, another local gym owner was actively poaching these confused customers.
Oh, it gets worse.
Yeah, this other owner is offering them a half-price membership if they initiated a chargeback against the author and paid the new gym directly.
It was a coordinated collapse of the business model. And meanwhile, the gym owners were ignoring their frantic phone calls.
Complete radio silence. And when he finally asks Layla to quantify the damage, to tell him exactly how many refunds they're looking at processing, she delivers the blow. It's $150,000.
150 grand. Gone. Just like that.
He talks about the immediate, crushing realization that they won't be able to make payroll. They had just convinced several close friends to quit their stable, full-time jobs to join this venture like a month prior.
The guilt must have been overwhelming, and because they were completely out of working capital, they couldn't even use their superpower to sell their way out of the hole.
Right, because generating more sales for that specific gym would just create more unmanageable customers, infuriate the gym owner even further, and lead to even more refunds.
They were entirely trapped in a paradox.
But to truly understand the gravity of that moment at the laptop, we have to analyze the business mechanics of how they ended up so over-leveraged in the first place.
Yeah, this wasn't a slow decline. It was a spectacular fall from a very high, very profitable peak. We need to rewind a year and look at the trajectory of his first major success.
Right, so a year earlier, the author was on top of the world. He had cracked the code on generating leads for his own local brick-and-mortar gyms. He had scaled his personal portfolio to 5 locations in just 3 years.
Which is incredibly fast for physical retail spaces.
Definitely. And his specific superpower was his ability to open a brand new gym at maximum capacity on day 1. His success started making waves in the industry, to the point where he was actually invited to speak at a fitness business conference to explain his advertising methods.
And the dynamic at that conference is a classic entrepreneurial realization.
What do you mean?
Well, he delivers his presentation assuming that everyone in the room already understood the basics of what he was doing.
Right, the curse of knowledge.
Exactly. He thought his lead generation process was just standard operating procedure for any competent business owner. But when he finishes his talk, the room is dead silent.
Oh, man.
And then chaos erupts. He is literally mobbed by the audience.
The detail he includes about being followed into the bathroom by desperate gym owners hurling questions at him is incredible. Over 100 people shove phone numbers, business cards, scraps of paper at him, begging for his help to save their dying facilities.
And in that chaotic moment, the light bulb goes off. He realizes, my ability to get leads is far more valuable than my ability to run a gym. I can make serious money doing this for other people.
So he executes a massive pivot. Within 3 months, he packages his lead generation system into a new business model called Gym Launch.
And we really have to analyze the structure of the offer he created here because it was insanely compelling. I mean, practically irresistible for a struggling gym owner.
Let me make sure I understand the mechanics of this offer, because it genuinely sounds too good to be true. He would personally fly out to a client's gym, turn on his proprietary lead generation machine, work the leads himself, and completely fill the gym with new paying members in 30 days.
Yep, that's step 1.
And he did all of this for free up front, right? The gym owner paid absolutely nothing out of pocket.
Not a dime.
The author's compensation was just keeping the membership fees for the first 6 weeks. After that 6-week period, the gym owner got to keep every single dollar of recurring revenue from those new members for the lifetime of their contract.
And if he didn't fill the gym, he absorbed the cost of the flight and the ad spend.
You've got to be kidding me. That is a textbook example of massive risk reversal.
Yeah.
He took 100% of the risk.
Because the offer was so strong, word spread through the fitness industry like wildfire. He eventually sold his own 5 gyms just to go all in on this launch-and-go model.
Wow.
He was traveling the country, filling gyms, and collecting these massive upfront cash injections. But as he analyzed his own business model, he spotted a structural flaw, one that was limiting his long-term wealth.
Oh, the recurring revenue trap.
Exactly. He realizes he's doing all the heavy lifting, the ad creation, the lead generation, the high-pressure sales, but the gym owners are capturing all the long-term passive profit.
He is injecting a massive asset into their business and walking away with just a one-time fee.
Right. He realizes he is leaving a fortune on the table, so he decides to evolve the model. Instead of just taking a fee, He wants equity.
He wants to become a part owner of the gyms he launches so he can stack recurring revenue month over month, building actual long-term enterprise value.
The logic is sound, but the execution leads to the fatal misstep. A particular gym owner offers him exactly the deal he is looking for, a 50-50 equity partnership.
Sounds perfect on paper.
Right. The division of labor is simple. The author will use his magic-led machine to fill the gym with paying customers, and the new partner will manage the staff, clean the floors, handle the day-to-day fulfillment.
But there is a massive catch.
A huge catch. The new partner discloses that he has poor financials.
And this is where the warning sirens start blaring.
Deafening sirens.
The author, playing the nice guy and eager to secure his first equity deal, agrees to take on all the financial liability. He personally guarantees the commercial lease. He agrees to pay all the overhead expenses, the equipment costs, and use his own time and ad budget to fill the gym before handing the keys over to the partner.
He liquidates his entire safety net. He takes all the cash he had accumulated from selling his 5 gyms, his entire life savings, and pours it into the launch of this single, supposedly highly lucrative partnership.
He essentially hands over all the leverage to someone he barely knows.
And then comes the betrayal.
Yeah.
Halfway through the launch phase, after the author has poured in the money and generated the initial wave of customers, he wakes up to check the business bank account and finds it completely drained.
$0.
Every single dollar of operating capital is gone.
The sheer panic of that moment. The partner accused the author of stealing from the company, even though they hadn't even reached profitability yet, and justified draining the account as taking his share of the initial revenue.
It's just madness.
And then the partner wires the money to a foreign contact, immediately files for bankruptcy to shield himself, and refuses to open the books or look at the financials. He completely burns the business to the ground on his way out the door.
And to make the situation even more tragic, the author admits in hindsight that he willingly ignored a massive, glaring red flag during the due diligence phase.
Wait, what did he miss? Or ignore, I guess.
He had discovered that this partner had been indicted for fraud a few years prior.
Are you serious? A fraud indictment?
Yes. But when confronted, the partner waved it off as a simple misunderstanding with a vindictive former business associate.
Oh, wow.
And the author's desire for that equity deal completely blinded him to the reality of the person he was getting into bed with.
It is a brutal, agonizing sequence of events. He lost his life savings, he lost his corporate structure, he lost his trust in his fellow entrepreneurs.
Everything was gone.
He was left with nothing but a mountain of furious customers demanding $150,000 in refunds and a team of friends expecting paychecks he couldn't deliver.
But this brings us to the most critical analytical point of the deep dive.
Right, the whole point of this story.
Why is this specific traumatic story of catastrophic failure placed at the very beginning of a highly technical book about generating leads?
Because the story serves as the ultimate proof of concept for the book's core thesis. What emerges from the ashes of that disaster is a profound realization about the nature of true business security.
Okay, unpack that. The author lost all his financial capital, he lost his legal standing because of the bankruptcy filings, he lost his business partner and his physical location. But the fraudulent partner could not steal the one asset that actually mattered.
His skills.
Exactly. He couldn't steal the internalized skill of generating leads. The author still possessed the knowledge of how to manipulate the market to force strangers to want to buy things.
That is the ultimate takeaway for you, the listener. Your most secure asset isn't your bank account balance. It's not your LLC formation documents, your ironclad legal contracts, or even your intellectual property.
No, because all of those physical and legal structures can be taken, they can be sued away or drained by bad actors.
Your ultimate unsaleable asset is your internalized ability to generate demand out of thin air. Because as long as you have that specific skill, you can rebuild the entire machine from scratch.
Which they did, obviously. They pivoted Gym Launch away from those risky equity deals and into a highly secure licensing model. And eventually, they built a multi-hundred-million-dollar portfolio.
But that massive resurrection hinged entirely on that one unstealable skill.
It did. And once you accept that fundamental truth, that obscurity is your enemy, and that the ability to get leads is your ultimate safety net, you need a system to actually execute it.
Right, because you can't just rely on erratic bursts of marketing energy.
No, you need a systematic, mathematically sound approach to scale your way out of whatever business misery you find yourself in. The source text provides a very specific sequential framework for solving the lead generation problem, and it boils down to 4 distinct upgrades.
Let's unpack the mechanics of this framework, because this is where the theory turns into actionable strategy. The 4 upgrades are more, better, cheaper, and reliably.
Exactly. And the author states a very simple mathematical truth here. To make more money in business, you can fundamentally only do 2 things. You can either get more customers, or you can make the customers you already have worth more money to you.
And this entire framework is focused solely on step 1, the mechanics of acquiring more customers.
Right. And to acquire more customers systematically, you need to upgrade your lead flow in a very specific logical order. You cannot skip steps.
The breakdown involves first getting more leads, then upgrading to better leads, then figuring out how to get them cheaper, and finally ensuring you get them reliably from multiple diversified sources.
I know you have a good way to visualize this.
Yeah, I want to use an analogy because it feels like building infrastructure. It makes me think of building a municipal water system for a brand new city.
I like this. Let's explore that. How does the water system map to the 4 steps?
Okay, so step 1 is getting more leads. In our city analogy, if people are dying of thirst, your first priority isn't building a state-of-the-art reverse osmosis filtration plant.
Obviously not.
Your first priority is just finding a massive river and redirecting as much raw volume of water as possible right into the city limits. You just need sheer volume to solve the immediate crisis of drought.
That makes sense.
Going from 10 people finding your business a day to 1,000 people a day.
The volume analogy is perfect. When a business is starved for attention, you just need the raw material. You run broader ads, you post more content, you increase your cold outreach, you blast the market to generate raw volume.
Just get eyes on the product.
Exactly. But as the text points out, volume alone eventually creates massive operational friction.
Right, because if you pump millions of gallons of unfiltered river water into the city, you solve the drought, but now people are getting sick from the mud.
Exactly. In business, if you generate thousands of leads, but they are all unqualified, out of your service area, or have absolutely no money, your sales team is going to spend 12 hours a day on the phone with people who will never buy.
You drown your own infrastructure.
You do. And that friction forces the next upgrade, which is getting better leads.
So step 2, getting better leads, is building the filtration plant. You want to filter out the mud and the debris so only clean water reaches the houses.
Right.
In marketing, this is about targeting and pre-qualification. You don't just want anyone clicking your ad. You want the specific people who urgently need your solution and have the capital to afford it.
And the mechanics of getting better leads involve adding friction to your marketing.
Friction, like making it harder for them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You might require them to fill out a long application form before they can even book a call. You might explicitly state your high prices in your ad copy to just scare away the bargain hunters.
Oh, that's smart.
You refine your messaging so it actively repels the wrong people and heavily attracts the ideal prospect. You go from getting just anyone to getting a highly concentrated stream of perfect buyers.
But building and running a highly advanced filtration plant is expensive, which leads us to the problem with step 2. Getting a high volume of incredibly high-quality leads can cost an absolute fortune in advertising spend.
Oh, yeah. Because if you are targeting, say, CEOs in Manhattan instead of college students globally, Facebook or LinkedIn is going to charge you a massive premium for that access.
Precisely the issue. As the cost to acquire a high-quality customer rises, it starts eating aggressively into your profit margins. You might be making sales, but you aren't making any actual money.
So the system demands the 3rd upgrade, getting leads cheaper.
This is where you optimize the efficiency of the pumps in our water analogy.
Right. And in business, this involves relentless split testing of your advertising.
Let's break down the mechanics of split testing for a listener who might not be familiar with the day-to-day operations of an ad account. How does testing actually lower the cost of a lead?
Well, it really comes down to how advertising platforms like Google or Meta charge you. They want to show users engaging content, right?
Because they want to keep people on the platform.
Exactly. So if you run an ad with a boring headline, very few people click it. Because the platform's algorithm sees your ad isn't engaging, they charge you a penalty, say, $5 for every click just to keep showing it.
Okay, that makes sense.
But if you test a new headline that is incredibly compelling and suddenly twice as many people click on it, the platform's algorithm recognizes your ad is highly relevant to the audience.
And they reward you.
Exactly. They reward you by dropping your cost per click from $5 down to maybe $2. So by constantly testing headlines, images, and sales copy, you increase your conversion rates.
You're spending the exact same amount of money, but extracting significantly more high-quality leads from that spend, thus making each individual lead cheaper.
You optimize the machinery to lower the operating cost.
Which brings us to the final piece of the framework, getting leads reliably. In the water analogy, if your entire city relies on one single river and a drought dries up that river, the city dies.
You need backup reservoirs, deep wells, rainwater catchments.
So what does that diversification look like in a business context?
In digital business, reliably means mitigating platform risk. It means predictability and diversification. Because if you get 100% of your incredibly cheap, high-quality leads from one single Facebook ad campaign, you do not own a secure business.
No, because if Facebook updates its privacy policy, or changes its algorithm, or inexplicably bans your ad account overnight.
Which happens constantly.
Right. Your business revenue goes to absolute zero the next morning. You are entirely at the mercy of a landlord who doesn't even know your name.
It's terrifying. Upgrading to reliable means building multiple independent streams of attention. You build a warm outreach system. You build a cold email machine. You invest in search engine optimization for free organic traffic.
You launch an affiliate program where other people sell your stuff for a commission.
You build a referral network. Achieving reliability means that if Google shuts you down tomorrow, your business doesn't collapse. Because you know exactly how many leads are going to flow in from your cold email and referral systems next week.
You eliminate the single point of failure.
Exactly.
But looking at this entire four-step framework, more, better, cheaper, reliably, I have to ask, what does this actually mean for the listener who is just starting out? Or the business owner who is currently staring at a calendar with absolutely zero sales calls booked for next week?
That's the real question.
Do they need to sit down right now and figure out how to get more leads, while simultaneously filtering for better quality, while split testing to make them cheaper, while building 5 different platforms to make it reliable? Because trying to execute all 4 of those complex systems at once sounds completely paralyzing.
Attempting to do all 4 simultaneously is a guaranteed recipe for burnout and information overload. You will fail.
What do you do?
The author recognizes this paralysis and introduces a vital philosophical concept to prevent it. He calls it the problem-solution cycle. He includes a visual in the text, but the concept is basically a universal law of business physics.
The problem-solution cycle.
Yeah. It states that every problem has a solution, and every solution inevitably reveals a brand new set of problems.
That is a fascinating way to view business growth. It's not a straight line to paradise. It's just exchanging low-level problems for higher-level problems.
That's a great way to phrase it.
Let's walk through an example of how that cycle actually dictates your actions within the lead generation framework.
Okay, if we apply the cycle to a struggling business, it removes all the complex decision-making. If your most pressing existential problem right now is, I don't have enough people to sell my product to, you do not need to worry about complex split testing or building an affiliate network.
You just ignore steps 2, 3, and 4 entirely.
Completely ignore them. You just need to solve the immediate bottleneck in front of you. Execute step 1 and get more leads.
So you film a raw, unedited video on your phone, you put some money behind it as an ad, and suddenly you have 500 people opting into your email list.
Wow.
Problem solved. You have volume. But because you just blasted it out to everyone, your phone is now ringing off the hook at 2 a.m., and 490 of those people are completely unqualified, live in a different country, or have zero money to spend. They are draining your energy.
And that is the cycle in action. Your solution, getting more leads, successfully solved the original drought, but it birthed a brand new operational problem. You are wasting all your time on bad prospects.
So now what?
Now, and only now, do you give yourself permission to move to the next step in the framework? You need better leads. So you rewrite your ad copy to explicitly state your premium pricing. You add a friction-heavy questionnaire before they can book a call.
Problem solved. You filter out the noise, and you are left with 50 highly qualified, perfect leads.
But wait, because those 50 leads are so highly targeted and required so much friction to acquire, they end up costing you $200 each in ad spend. Your profit margins shrink to almost zero. You are working for free.
New problem.
So what does the cycle dictate you do next? You move to step 3. You figure out how to get those high-quality leads cheaper. You start A/B testing different headlines to increase your click-through rate. You refine your sales script to close a higher percentage of the people you talk to.
Problem solved. Your ad costs drop, your conversion rates rise, and your profit margins are massive again.
But then Apple releases an iOS update that blocks ad tracking. And the single platform you are relying on loses all its targeting capabilities, and your cheap, high-quality leads completely dry up overnight.
New problem.
Exactly, which forces you to the final step of the framework, getting them reliably. You take those high profits and you invest them into building a YouTube channel, a cold email team, and a robust customer referral program.
That is the beautiful, relentless reality of scaling a business. You never truly arrive at a state of zero problems. You just graduate to more complex, more lucrative problems.
You do not try to solve the platform diversification issues of step 4 when you are still stuck in the obscurity of step 1.
The practical takeaway for the listener here is profound in its sheer simplicity. As the author states, all else being equal, when you double your leads, you double your business.
If you are struggling right now, embrace the messy reality of volume. Start with just getting more. The rest of the elegant optimizations will naturally follow as the friction of volume forces you to adapt.
It is incredibly liberating to realize you don't have to have the entire machine perfectly blueprinted before you start building. You just have to identify the single bottleneck directly in front of you and solve it.
The goal isn't to achieve perfection on day 1. The goal is relentless progression through the cycle.
Progression over perfection is the defining trait of the entrepreneurs who survive.
Absolutely.
Let's bring all of these distinct threads together. If we synthesize the soul of this chapter, the core fundamental message the author is trying to drill into our heads through the frameworks, the analogies, and the traumatic stories. It's that obscurity is the only true, incurable, fatal disease in business.
It is the ultimate silent killer of potential. You can possess the greatest product design in your industry, the noblest of intentions to help people, and the most refined technical skill set. But if you lack the mechanism to force the market to know you exist, you effectively have nothing.
You are the Michelin star chef in the concrete box.
Exactly.
Whether you are facing what you perceive to be a highly saturated market, or you are trying to recover from a devastating business betrayal, like the $150,000 nightmare we discussed, or you're simply staring at a business bank account that is uncomfortably close to zero. Mastering the art of getting leads gives you ultimate leverage.
It gives you the power to outsurvive your competitors, out-earn your own operational mistakes, and literally fund the evolution of your product.
The ability to make strangers on the internet actually want to buy your stuff isn't just a marketing tactic. It is the purest, most resilient form of entrepreneurial freedom.
It is the absolute difference between passively hoping for success and actively engineering it. When you control the flow of human attention, you control the destiny of your enterprise.
Which leaves us with a final, slightly uncomfortable but necessary thought for you to mull over as you go about the rest of your day.
I want you to look at your own calendar right now.
Yeah, look at your CRM or your bank account. Be painfully honest with yourself and ask this question. Are my current struggles in business really because my product isn't good enough or because I'm not skilled enough at what I do? Or is it simply because not nearly enough people know I exist?
It is a deeply confronting question to ask yourself, but answering it honestly is the required first step towards stepping out of the shadows and building that lead-getting machine.
And once you make the decision to stop hiding behind product tweaks and start generating leads, you face a brand new challenge in the cycle. Because the internet is an incredibly noisy place, and just showing up and yelling isn't enough.
No, you have to figure out how to stop people from actively ignoring your message.
So next time on the Deep Dive, we're going to step over the threshold. We're going to explore the psychology of why regular generic leads are actually totally useless. And we will break down the mechanics of how to create an offer so magnetic that strangers turn into highly engaged leads who actually raise their hand and beg to pay you.
It's going to be a good one.
But until then, keep building that restaurant and maybe, just maybe, start cutting a door in the concrete wall.
So, I want you to imagine it is 2017.
Okay.
You are this 20-something entrepreneur, and you have just taken the ultimate leap of faith. I mean, you poured your entire life savings.
Every last penny.
Exactly. Everything you have scraped together from, years of sleeping on the floor, eating cheap food, just grinding. And you put it all into this brand new business, launching physical gyms.
Which is heavy overhead.
Super heavy. You have personally guaranteed the leases. You took on all the liability, put your actual name on the line for hundreds of thousands of dollars in commercial real estate space.
Wow.
Yeah. And you wake up one morning, you grab your phone off the nightstand, and you open your banking app to see, how much capital you have to run payroll.
And let me guess, the screen loads and the balance is just...
Zero.
Not...
Zero.
Cool.
Every single dollar is completely gone.
Oh, man.
The business partner that you trusted, he emptied the accounts, wired the money to some foreign contact, and literally filed for bankruptcy.
That is a nightmare.
It is. You're just sitting there in bed, staring at this screen that tells you your net worth is effectively, gone. But the reality is actually so much darker than that.
Wait, darker how?
Because that business partner did not just vanish with the cash. He actually reached out to all the customers at the gyms you just launched, and he told them to ask for refunds.
You are kidding.
No, he claimed the business was going under.
So it is not just a financial loss. It is like a complete structural collapse of everything you spent years building.
Right, combined with this sudden, massive debt burden.
Yeah.
You are looking at a spreadsheet where every other line is negative $299, negative $499.
Just a waterfall.
A literal waterfall of automated refund requests just hitting an empty account.
Wow.
You do not just have $0, you actually owe $150,000 in refunds to these incredibly angry customers.
And you have no money to pay your friends either. The people who probably quit their safe jobs to come work for your vision.
Exactly. That is the visceral, high-stakes, gut-wrenching reality that Alex Hormozi woke up to.
Yeah, and the mechanics of that specific situation are what make it so illustrative for what we're talking about today.
100%. Because when you are stripped down to the absolute studs like that, no capital, no partner, this huge mountain of debt, you cannot rely on a fancy brand identity.
Right, or some long-term PR strategy.
No, you are forced to rely on a single indestructible skill to survive. You have to be able to generate cash immediately.
Immediately.
And that survival skill is exactly what this deep dive is dedicated to unpacking.
I'm excited for this one.
Me too.
Yeah.
We are looking at how that specific catastrophic failure laid the foundation for what is now a $250 million a year portfolio of companies.
It is wild.
We are opening up the playbook from the source material today, which is 100 MM Leads.
Yes.
And the mission for you listening right now is to learn the underlying architecture of how to literally force strangers to want to buy your stuff.
Which is the dream, right?
It is. We are going to explore the mechanics of fundamentally eliminating the bottleneck of, not having enough customers forever.
And to really understand the value of this skill, I think we have to look at the broader landscape of why businesses fail.
Okay.
Because most businesses, they do not actually fail because they have a bad product.
Right.
The source material talks extensively about having a grand slam offer. Let's define that first.
Let's do it.
A grand slam offer is basically a product or service that provides so much value and mitigates so much risk for the buyer that they actually feel stupid saying no to it.
I love that definition.
Right. But having a grand slam offer means absolutely nothing if it just exists in a vacuum.
Yeah, nobody cares if they don't know about it.
Exactly. You could invent a highly effective cure for, a common disease, but if you are just sitting alone in your basement and no one knows you have it,
the product is completely worthless.
it is worthless.
Because advertising, when you strip away all the, the corporate jargon, it is simply the process of making known.
Making known. I like that.
It is just the act of bringing the existence of your solution to the exact people who are currently suffering from the problem you solve.
And the text makes a really provocative claim regarding this.
Oh, about being bad at sales.
Yes. It argues that if you can truly master lead generation, if you can engineer a system where people are constantly knocking on your door asking for your help, you can actually be quite terrible at the actual mechanism of sales.
Which sounds so backwards.
It does. You can have a clumsy pitch. You can have a slightly mediocre product in the beginning. You can even make disastrous errors in judgment, like trusting the wrong business partner.
Yeah.
And the sheer volume of incoming opportunity will just insulate you from ruin.
I want to break down why that is. On behalf of the listener, it sounds counterintuitive to say you can be bad at sales and still succeed.
Sure.
Think of it like having infinite lives in a video game.
Okay, I'm with you.
In a normal business, maybe you get 3 leads a month. If your sales pitch is awkward and you lose those 3 leads, your business starves. You are basically out of lives.
The game is over.
Game over. But if your lead generation machine is pumping out 50 leads a day, failing to close one person does not induce panic.
No, because there's another one right behind them.
Exactly. You just learn from the mistake and you talk to the next person in line 5 minutes later. A relentless stream of leads provides this endless buffer for human error.
It shifts the entire constraint of the business.
How so?
Well, instead of the constraint being like, can I convince this one person to buy, the constraint becomes, how fast can I process all these people who already want to buy?
That is a much better problem to have.
Oh, a way better problem. But, before anyone can reach that stage, the source material establishes a really strict prerequisite.
The mindset shift.
Yeah, there's this psychological hurdle that has to be cleared before any of these tactical lead generation strategies will actually work.
And this prerequisite is a foundational shift in how we view the value of our own labor, especially when we are just starting out.
Right.
The text illustrates this with this great piece of history about Warren Buffett.
Oh, this story's fascinating.
It is. So long before Buffett was known as the Oracle of Omaha or, recognized as one of the greatest investors in history, he was just this young, eager guy.
Just a kid, really?
Yeah, and he idolized this investor named Benjamin Graham. So Buffett actually approached Graham and made him what seems like an unbeatable offer.
He asked to work from him for free.
He asked to work for free.
Which is crazy.
And Graham's response to that offer reveals a really deep truth about the economics of mentorship and, skill acquisition.
What did he say?
He told the young Warren Buffett, "You are overpriced."
You're overpriced.
Even at free.
Which just sounds completely absurd on the surface.
Right. How can free labor be overpriced?
Well, because Graham was factoring in the hidden costs of taking on an unproven novice.
Okay, break that down.
The expense of hiring a young Warren Buffett was not the salary. That was zero.
Right.
The true cost was the time, the cognitive load, the energy, and the reputational risk required to train him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. If Graham took Buffett on, Graham would have to stop doing his own highly lucrative work to review Buffett's work, correct his mistakes, teach him the nuances of the market.
So Graham is losing money by having Buffett there.
Exactly. Economically speaking, Graham would have been working for Buffett, basically subsidizing Buffett's education with his own valuable time.
That flips the entire script for anyone who is just starting to build a business or, offer a service.
It completely flips it.
Because when you are a beginner, your early customers are actually taking a massive risk on your unproven ability.
Absolutely.
They are offering up their time, their patience, and their real-world problems for you to literally practice on.
Yeah.
So in a very real sense, your early clients are training you, and they're doing it for free.
The objective in the beginning is not to maximize revenue.
It's not.
No. The objective is to maximize learning and to accrue what the text calls a no tax.
A no tax.
Yeah. In any new endeavor, failure is not like an anomaly. It is a requisite mathematical component of success.
You have to fail to learn.
Exactly. You have to accumulate rejections, mistakes, and failed campaigns to pay down your inherent ignorance.
Okay, but I have to challenge this concept on behalf of the listener.
Go for it.
Because it directly contradicts the dominant cultural narrative we hear today.
The whole know your worth thing.
Yes. Everywhere you look on social media, the prevailing advice is know your worth. We are constantly told, do not undervalue yourself, never give your services away for free, and charge what you are worth from day one.
I see those posts every single day.
Right. So if someone follows the advice in this book and gives their services away to learn, aren't they just setting themselves up to be exploited by cheap clients who will never respect them?
That is a really valid fear, but the conflict there comes from conflating two completely different types of value. There is your inherent unquantifiable worth as a human being, which is absolute.
Obviously.
And then there is the market value of the specific solution you are providing, which, when you are a beginner, is objectively close to zero.
Oh, that stings a bit.
It hurts.
Ew.
But it is true. You may be a unique and valuable person, but your unproven marketing agency or your untested fitness coaching program, it is not valuable yet.
Right.
The market does not pay you for your inherent human dignity.
It pays you for results.
It pays you for your ability to reliably solve a problem, period. So when you prioritize learning over earning, you are not devaluing yourself. You are just acknowledging reality and crawling before you attempt to run.
Okay, so the focus is strictly on building an undeniable track record. You need case studies.
Yes.
You need proof that your solution works. But the question then becomes, how do you structure these early transactions to get those case studies without just becoming like a permanent volunteer?
Which nobody wants.
Nobody wants that. And the source material offers a fascinating mechanism for this. Reversing the risk through a specific type of guarantee.
Risk reversal is such a highly effective psychological tool.
Right.
Because when a prospect is looking at your unproven business, they see all the risk. They are thinking, what if this doesn't work? What if I lose my money?
Yeah, why should I trust you?
Exactly. So to get them to say yes, you have to take that risk off their shoulders and place it squarely on your own.
Okay, how?
Well, you can do this by offering to work for free until result is achieved. Or you can use a more advanced structure.
The prepay guarantee.
Yes, offering an ironclad guarantee, but tying that guarantee exclusively to a full upfront payment.
I want to dissect the mechanics of that prepay guarantee because it is just a brilliant piece of behavioral design.
It really is.
Let's use a concrete example. Say you are a novice copywriter trying to get your first freelance clients.
Okay.
You could offer a payment plan like, hey, pay me $500 a month for 4 months.
Standard stuff.
Yeah. Very standard. Or you could say, the total is $2,000. If you pay it all up front today, I guarantee I will double the conversion rate on your landing page in 30 days, or I will refund every single penny.
Wow.
Why is that second option superior for both parties?
It all comes down to skin in the game and commitment.
Okay.
If a client is on a slow payment plan, their psychological investment is actually pretty low.
Right. It's just a drip.
Exactly. If they get distracted or lose interest, they might just cancel the card on file and walk away.
Which leaves you without the money and without the case study.
Exactly. But when a client pays the full amount up front, they are fully invested.
Oh, they want their money's worth.
They want the result. They will provide the assets you need. They will actually show up to the meetings, and they will implement your advice because they are committed to that desired outcome.
Because they paid for it?
Yes. By tying the guarantee to the prepay, you essentially force the client to commit fully to the process.
It is a phenomenal framing.
It is.
You are basically asking the prospect, would you rather hold on to a little bit of cash today with the payment plan? Or would you rather have an absolute guarantee of success and shift all the risk of failure onto me?
Right. It weaponizes the guarantee to secure operational cash flow for you.
While maximizing the probability that the client actually achieves the result.
Exactly. Which in turn gives you the glowing testimonial you desperately need to finally start charging premium prices.
It is a win-win. Okay, so once you have embraced this philosophy that you are willing to absorb risk and prioritize learning, you are ready to actually start generating leads.
You are ready to play the game.
Right. You need people to make these offers to. So this transitions into the tactical execution of advertising.
And the source material organizes this execution into a framework called the Core 4.
A core 4.
Yeah. These are the 4 fundamental methods for acquiring leads, categorized by 2 things: whether the audience knows you or not, and whether you are communicating one-to-one or one-to-many.
Okay, what are the 4 pillars?
They are warm outreach, cold outreach, free content, and paid ads.
And the logical starting point, which is also often the most psychologically difficult for people, is warm outreach.
Oh, people hate this one.
They dread it because warm outreach involves contacting people who already have some context for who you are.
Right.
This is one-to-one communication with your existing network, but it requires a very systematic approach.
You do not just, text a few close friends.
No, you audit every single communication platform you possess. You extract your phone contacts, you export your email address book, you list every connection on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram.
You literally start at the top of the letter A, and you work your way down.
Which is exactly where the friction hits.
Yeah.
I mean, the listener right now is probably thinking, I have not spoken to the guy who sat behind me in 11th grade biology in 15 years.
Yeah. I cannot just send him a message pitching my new B2B software startup.
That is socially bizarre and incredibly spammy.
And the beauty of the text is that it completely agrees with that anxiety.
You absolutely do not pitch them.
No. To solve this awkwardness, the author introduces a tactic created by this legendary direct response marketer named Dean Jackson.
Okay.
It is called the 9-word email.
The 9-word email. I love this.
It is a brilliant study in constraint and human psychology,
Right.
because it strips away all the bloated corporate communication we are used to and relies on a single, highly specific trigger.
Let me give the template for this. It is literally just this. Are you still looking to insert forward desire?
This is it.
That is the entire message. Let me give you some concrete examples of how this adapts to any industry.
Sure.
If you are in real estate, are you still looking to buy a house?
Perfect.
If you are a fitness coach, are you still looking to lose 10 pounds?
Yep.
B2B software. Are you still looking to automate your payroll? Or if you are a freelance graphic designer, are you still looking to rebrand your website?
Simple.
Landscaping business. Are you still looking to fix your backyard? Now, notice what is absent from every single one of those examples.
The absences are exactly what make the strategy function.
Right.
I mean, there are no hyperlinks,
Yeah.
there are no attached PDF brochures, there is no bolded text or corporate logos in the signature.
No, hope you are doing well, paragraphs.
Exactly. Most importantly, there is no pushy sales pitch and no lengthy preamble explaining where you have been for the last decade.
Let's analyze the psychology of the person receiving this.
Okay.
When you send a beautifully formatted HTML email with headers and buttons, the human brain instantly categorizes it as marketing.
Well, 100%.
The spam filter in our hands activates, and we just delete it without reading it.
Yep.
But when you receive a plain text message that just asks one simple question,
No.
it looks exactly like a note a friend would tap out on their phone while waiting at a red light.
It bypasses the mental spam filter completely.
Completely.
Furthermore, it drastically lowers the barrier to a response.
How?
Well, it is a binary question requiring a yes or no answer. You are not asking them to buy anything, book a call, or read a document.
You just want a yes or no.
You are simply running a diagnostic check to see if they are still attached to a specific desire. It forces them to either raise their hand and say yes, or just ignore it.
The analogy I always use to understand this is imagining a massive, pitch-black gymnasium.
Okay, a dark room.
Yeah, filled with thousands of people. And you are standing on a stage with a flashlight.
Right.
Sending a traditional long-form sales pitch is like standing in the dark and shouting your entire business plan into the void, just hoping someone in the back row cares enough to listen to the whole speech.
Which rarely happens.
Never happens. But sending the 9-word email is completely different. It is just flicking the flashlight on and off in quick bursts, scanning the crowd, and looking to see if anyone waves their hand back.
That was a great visual.
You are not trying to convince the whole room to buy. You are literally just trying to identify the 5 people who are currently looking for what you have.
And this framing completely eliminates the social anxiety associated with warm outreach.
Because you aren't pitching.
Right. You are not imposing on anyone. You are not begging for business. You are simply asking a question.
Yeah.
If they reply yes, then you engage in a normal human conversation to see if you can actually help them. If they reply no, or do not reply at all, you just cross them off the list for now and move to the next name. There is zero social cost.
But let's look at the operational reality of this.
Okay.
Let's say a listener is highly disciplined. They sit down, they use the 9-word framework, and they message every single person in their phone, their email, and their social media.
Good for them.
Right. It might take them 3 weeks of steady work, but eventually they reach the letter Z. The warm list is officially tapped out.
Good.
The immediate instinct is to say, well, that strategy is done. What is next?
And that instinct is exactly where amateurs abandon a perfectly good engine.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
The professional understands that reaching the end of the list simply means it is time to cycle back to the top and start over.
Wait, you just messaged the exact same people again.
You do.
If they ignored you in March, won't they be incredibly annoyed when you message them again in July?
I mean, this requires an understanding of how human circumstances fluctuate.
Explain that.
The list of names on your spreadsheet remains static, right? The names don't change.
Right.
But the lived reality of the people behind those names is highly dynamic. The circumstances of your contacts evolve dramatically every 3 to 6 months.
Let's trace a hypothetical contact to prove that point.
Sure. Let's use Dave.
Okay, Dave. Imagine Dave is on your list. You are a real estate agent, and in January, you send Dave the 9-word email. Are you still looking to buy a house?
And Dave ignores it.
Dave ignores it because he's perfectly happy in his downtown apartment.
Exactly.
But roll a clock forward to June. Dave just found out his wife is pregnant with twins,
Oh boy.
and his landlord just raised the rent by 20%.
Suddenly, Dave's circumstances violently shifted.
Violently. He is now in a state of high urgency. If you cycle your list and hit Dave with that exact same 9-word email in July, He isn't annoyed.
Not at all.
He views your email as a lifeline.
Precisely. If you operate under the assumption that a no or an ignored message is a permanent state of affairs, you are leaving massive amounts of opportunity on the table.
Right. A no just means not right now.
Exactly. By cycling back to the top of your list periodically, you are not being a nuisance. You are simply increasing the mathematical probability that your outreach intersects with their moment of acute need.
It is a timing game.
In lead generation, timing is frequently the absolute only variable separating a non-responder from a paying client.
It is about maintaining presence so that when the pain point arises, you are the first solution they see.
That is it.
But, even with cycling, warm outreach has a hard mathematical ceiling.
It does.
It is fundamentally limited by the number of human beings you have met or interacted with in your life. It is one-to-one.
Yes.
If you want to scale, if you want to manufacture new leads out of thin air at a massive volume, you have to transition from one-to-one to one-to-many.
We need to build an audience.
Which brings us to the third quadrant of the core four, free content.
And the source text provides a highly transparent look at the author's initial resistance to this strategy.
Yeah, Hormozi admits that for years he thought creating free content was an ego-driven waste of time.
He really did.
He looked at it purely through a transactional lens. He would think, why would I spend 4 hours writing a script, setting up lights, and filming a video just for the algorithm to push it down the feed where it disappears into the digital abyss after 48 hours?
Right.
From a strict ROI perspective, spending hours on an asset that vanishes in 2 days seems like terrible business.
It is a highly logical trap that ensnares many analytical founders.
It makes sense on paper.
It does. But they mistakenly identify the piece of content itself as the asset. If the video is the asset and the video has a shelf life of 2 days, it is a bad investment.
Okay, so what is the asset?
The massive paradigm shift outlined in the text is recognizing that the content is not the compounding asset. The audience is.
The audience.
Yes. The video might fade away, but the person who watched that video found it valuable and clicked follow. That person stays.
They are locked in the ecosystem.
Exactly. And the video you post next week brings in another person who stays. The audience is a compounding reservoir of attention.
So the free content is just the bait used to stock the pond.
That is a perfect way to put it. Furthermore, a robust library of free content acts as an invisible 24-hour sales force that amplifies every other lead generation tactic you employ.
Wait, how does it amplify the others?
Imagine you launch a cold outreach campaign and you message 1,000 complete strangers.
Yeah.
What is the absolute first thing a skeptical stranger does before replying to a cold message?
Oh, they search your name on the internet.
Exactly. If your digital footprint is a ghost town, you appear illegitimate and they will ignore you.
Right, you look like a scam.
But if they search your name and find hundreds of hours of high-value educational content, your perceived authority skyrockets.
That makes total sense.
The cold outreach suddenly converts at a drastically higher rate because the free content did all the heavy lifting of building trust before you even spoke to them.
The synergy between the core four is what makes the system so powerful. They feed each other.
They do.
Okay, so we established that making free content is mandatory for scale.
Right.
But the internet is deafeningly noisy.
Very noisy.
Millions of pieces of content are uploaded every hour. How do you construct content that actually pierces through the noise and holds human attention?
The source text breaks this down into an engineering framework called the content unit.
A content unit, define that.
It is defined as the smallest possible amount of material required to capture, maintain, and satisfy someone's attention.
Okay.
And it is constructed from 3 distinct, non-negotiable components: hook, retain, and reward. If any of these 3 elements are missing or weak, the unit fails and the user scrolls away.
Let's dissect the anatomy of this unit.
Okay, the first component is the hook. The hook's singular job is to earn the viewer's attention for the next few seconds.
Just by a few seconds.
That's it. It must make a promise or present a tension compelling enough to halt their scrolling reflex.
Got it.
And the second component is retain. This is the body of the content. Here, you must maintain the attention you just bought with the hook.
How do you do that?
You do this by building curiosity, telling a structured story, or laying out a logical sequence of steps. You are basically keeping the promise of the hook alive, stringing the viewer along.
And the final component is the reward.
Yes.
This is the payoff. It is the epiphany, the actionable advice, the punchline of the joke.
Right.
If you hook a viewer with a massive promise, retain them for 3 minutes with a winding story, and then fail to deliver a satisfying reward.
They feel mathematically cheated.
They really do.
Yeah.
They will categorize you as clickbait and actively avoid your content in the future.
And this framework naturally leads into one of the most debated topics in digital marketing: content length.
Oh, people obsess over this.
Constantly. Creators agonize over whether their video should be 15 seconds or 10 minutes, or whether their post should be 2 sentences or 2,000 words.
What does the text say?
The text posits a radical theory. The concept of too long does not actually exist.
I want to dig into that because it sounds completely contradictory to everything we hear about modern microscopic attention spans.
Right.
We are constantly told people have the attention span of a goldfish, so everything must be hyper-condensed.
It is a myth. The short attention span narrative is a complete misdiagnosis of human behavior.
Really?
Think about the empirical evidence of how people actually consume media. A person will ruthlessly scroll past a 10-second video on their phone if it fails to hook them in the first 2 seconds.
Sure.
But that exact same human being, on the exact same day, will sit on their couch and binge-watch an 8-hour season of a television drama without breaking eye contact with the screen.
They will sit down and read a 900-page fantasy novel.
Exactly. If attention spans were truly shrinking, the 8-hour binge would be biologically impossible.
So what is the difference?
The difference isn't the length of the medium. The difference is the density of the value.
Density of value.
Yeah. The 8-hour television show is not one long, boring block of content. It is a meticulously engineered chain of hundreds of consecutive content units.
Oh, wow.
It hooks you with a cold open, retains you with character tension, rewards you with a plot twist, and immediately hooks you again before the commercial break.
It is constantly paying the viewer's attention span with what the text calls value per second.
Therefore, the rule for creators is not that content must be short. The rule is that it cannot be boring.
You can make a piece of content as long as you desire, provided you are continuously and relentlessly delivering value per second.
Exactly. If the value drops, they scroll.
So we have the structure hook, retain, reward, and we understand that density matters more than duration. But what do we actually talk about to generate this value? The book categorizes content generation into 5 thematic buckets.
Let's hear them.
First, there is the far past. These are the deep, foundational, often painful lessons you have learned over years of experience.
Okay.
You tell the story of your failures so the audience can extract the lesson without having to suffer the scars themselves.
I like that.
Second is the recent past. This is what happened over the last 7 days.
And the recent past is highly underutilized.
Why do you think that is?
Well, people think they need to invent profound philosophies, but often the most relatable, high-value content comes from mundane reality.
Like what?
A difficult conversation you had with a client on Tuesday, a surprising metric you noticed in your analytics on Wednesday, a mistake you made hiring someone on Friday.
It is raw and highly applicable.
Very much so.
The third bucket is the present, documenting exactly what you are doing in this exact moment, building in public. The fourth is trending content, injecting your specific expertise into a topic the world is already obsessed with, hijacking the existing momentum of the news cycle.
Smart.
And the fifth is manufactured content, setting up elaborate experiments, challenges, or unique scenarios exclusively for the purpose of documenting the outcome.
Right.
You package all of these into easily digestible formats: lists, steps, or stories.
But within all this architecture, there is one ironclad rule the author emphasizes above all else.
Oh, this rule's fascinating.
It dictates the tone of everything you publish. The rule is, make all your content for strangers.
This is a directive that forces many creators to completely rewire their approach to audience building.
Because it feels wrong at first.
I am going to push back hard on this rule, actually, because it feels incredibly counterintuitive to community building.
Go on.
When you spend years building an audience, you are cultivating a tribe. You want to reward your most loyal followers, the people who have been in the trenches with you since day one. You develop inside jokes. You reference past events as community lore. You speak in a shorthand that validates their loyalty.
Yeah.
If you strip all of that away and constantly act like you are meeting everyone for the first time, don't you risk alienating your true fans? Isn't that how you build super fans?
It is an effective way to build a small, highly insulated cult.
Ouch.
It is true. But it is a catastrophic way to scale a massive lead generation machine.
Why?
Because the objective here is massive scale, which requires the constant acquisition of new attention.
Oh, okay, I am listening.
To understand the danger, consider the analogy of a dinner party.
All right.
Imagine you walk into a crowded room where you know absolutely no one. You walk up to a group, and they are in the middle of a roaring laugh over an inside joke you don't understand.
Awkward.
They're using acronyms you have never heard, referencing a trip they took 3 years ago, and speaking entirely in shorthand.
As the newcomer in that scenario, you feel completely isolated. You feel stupid for not knowing the context. Your immediate instinct is to slowly back away and leave the room to find a conversation where you actually feel competent.
Precisely. And on the internet, leaving the room requires zero social friction.
It takes a fraction of a second to swipe to the next video.
Yes. Every time you use an inside joke, skip an introduction, or use an unexplained acronym, you are throwing up a massive wall that tells every new viewer, this is not for you.
Wow.
If you want your audience to grow, you must systematically dismantle those walls.
So every piece of content.
Every single piece of content you produce must operate under the assumption that the person watching has absolutely no idea who you are, what you do, or what your philosophy is.
You must provide context, define your terms, and deliver a complete package of value that requires zero prerequisite knowledge.
Yes.
But the fear still remains.
Well.
Won't the loyal fans who do know everything about you get incredibly annoyed by the constant repetition of the basics?
You would think so, but the empirical data on human psychology suggests otherwise. As the old adage goes, people need to be reminded far more often than they need to be instructed.
That is a great...
Your core audience actually appreciates the repetition. It reinforces the philosophies they already align with.
Right, it validates what they believe.
Exactly. They will gloss over the introductory context because they are just waiting for the core value. They will not unsubscribe because you took 5 seconds to introduce yourself.
But the stranger.
The stranger will finally feel welcomed. They will comprehend the value you are offering. They will feel smart for understanding it. They will share it with their network, and they will become the newest lead in your ecosystem.
You sacrifice a tiny bit of intimacy for a massive return in scale.
Exactly.
That is a fundamental shift in perspective. You are not broadcasting to a private club. You're constantly standing on a street corner welcoming tourists.
Perfect analogy.
So let's look at the dashboard of our hypothetical business right now.
Let's do it.
We are sending the 9-word emails, cycling our warm list every few months. We are publishing highly structured content units, engineered with hooks and rewards, aimed exclusively at strangers.
The machine is humming.
The leads are flowing. The business is growing.
Everything is great.
But then, the inevitable reality of physics and markets sets in.
Ah, yes.
You hit a plateau.
You always do.
You are posting the same amount of content, sending the same number of messages, but the revenue line completely flatlines. You are trapped in a bottleneck.
Right.
How do you break through the ceiling?
This requires a transition to the most critical diagnostic framework in the text.
Which is?
When you are stuck, you do not need more tactics. You need a system for evaluating effort.
Okay.
The framework for scaling any advertising mechanism is broken down into a strict, non-negotiable sequence. More, better, new.
More, better, new. It sounds almost deceptively simplistic.
It is simple to comprehend, but it requires ruthless discipline to execute because it fights against every natural impulse an entrepreneur has.
How's that?
Well, when a lead generation strategy hits a plateau, say, a specific Facebook ad campaign stops producing cheap leads, the immediate panicked instinct of the amateur is to abandon it and jump to something shiny.
Oh, I've done that.
We all have. They declare, Facebook ads are dead, the algorithm changed, we need to completely pivot and build a TikTok funnel from scratch.
The classic shiny object syndrome. We abandon the mine just as it gets hard to dig and go looking for a new patch of surface gold.
Precisely. But the framework demands that you suppress that instinct.
To suppress that.
Yes. The sequence dictates that the very first step, before you change anything, is simply to do more of what is already working.
Okay, give me an example.
If you are sending 50 cold emails a day and getting one solid lead, you do not rewrite the email copy. You do not switch to LinkedIn.
What do?
You figure out the operational mechanics required to send 500 emails a day. You apply brute force volume to the existing baseline.
You essentially just crank the dial on the output until it physically cannot go any higher.
Yes. You maximize the current vehicle.
Right.
But eventually, volume breaks systems.
Right.
Your email domains might get flagged for spam, or your sales team might literally not have enough hours in the day to make the calls.
Or the effort required to increase the volume yields severely diminishing returns.
Exactly. When you reach the absolute ceiling of more, only then are you permitted to move to the second phase. Better. This is the optimization phase.
This is where we start tinkering under the hood.
Exactly. Now that you have massive volume flowing through the system, you start split testing.
Like testing headlines.
Yeah, you test a new subject line on the emails to see if open rates jump from 20% to 22%. You improve the lighting and audio quality on your videos. You rewrite the first 3 seconds of the script.
You are trying to squeeze more efficiency out of the existing volume.
Right.
So more is about increasing the volume of water flowing through the pipe.
Yes.
And better is about patching the microscopic leaks in the pipe so less water escapes.
That is exactly it. And eventually, optimization also taps out.
True.
You can spend a month tweaking a landing page button color from green to blue.
Yeah.
And only see a 0.001% change in behavior.
Not worth the time.
When the gains from optimization become statistically insignificant, you have fully maximized that channel. Only then, at the very end of the sequence, are you finally allowed to do something new.
So that is when you launch on a completely new social media platform, or you start a podcast, or you explore billboard advertising.
Yes.
Now, here is a fascinating piece of extrapolation from the text regarding this sequence.
Oh, the flip.
The flip. The author argues that this specific order, more, better, new, is ironclad for small to medium businesses.
Yep.
But he identifies a very specific financial threshold where the math of the universe changes and the framework actually flips.
It is brilliant.
He notes that for businesses under roughly $1 million in annual profit, the order is definitively more, better, new. But once a business crosses that $1 million profit threshold and achieves massive scale, the sequence reverses to better, more, new.
Let's break down the mechanics of why that flip occurs.
Please do.
The flip is dictated by the leverage of volume.
Okay.
Let's look at the math of a small business. If you are doing $10,000 a month in revenue and you spend 3 weeks meticulously optimizing your checkout page to improve the conversion rate by 1%,
You might generate, what, an extra $100 a month?
exactly. The return on the time invested is abysmal. You would have been exponentially better off spending those 3 weeks just making 1,000 more cold calls.
At low volume, brute force is always the highest leverage activity.
Always.
But the environment changes completely when the pipe is massive.
Entirely.
Hmm.
If you are a massive enterprise doing $10 million a month and you have hundreds of thousands of visitors hitting your site, the leverage shifts.
Dramatically.
If you can optimize that same checkout page and gain a 1% increase in conversion, that tiny tweak might instantly yield an extra $100,000 a month in pure profit.
Without spending an extra dime on advertising.
Exactly. At massive scale, making things better optimization becomes the lowest cost, highest return activity in the entire organization.
So the giants optimize first, then they pour on more volume.
Yes.
That mathematical distinction is crucial. Now, let's talk about the final category in the framework, new.
Okay.
When businesses finally earn the right to explore new channels, they often hesitate because of a psychological barrier the text calls the size of pie fallacy.
Ah, yes.
This is a profound misunderstanding of how market share actually works.
It really is. The size of pie fallacy is rooted in a scarcity mindset.
How so?
Most entrepreneurs visualize their target market as a fixed, finite entity, a pie sitting on a table.
Right.
If they currently hold a 10% slice of that pie and a new competitor enters the market, their immediate assumption is that the competitor must steal from their slice to survive.
They view business as a zero-sum game where every new option cannibalizes the existing options.
Yeah.
Like, oh no, a new boutique fitness studio opened 3 blocks away. There goes half my membership base.
Right. But in the context of lead generation and advertising, this is empirically false.
Why?
Launching a new advertising channel, say, starting a TikTok account when you have historically only used Facebook, does not just rearrange the slices of the existing pie.
What does it do?
It bakes an entirely new, exponentially larger pie.
Because the overlap between the audiences is often minimal.
Very minimal. The person who finds you on a direct mail flyer might literally never log on to TikTok, and vice versa.
Right.
By doing something new, you're not fighting over the same 10 people who already know you exist. You are suddenly exposing your business to 10,000 completely different human beings who never knew the first pie existed.
Expanding into new channels creates net new market demand. It doesn't just shuffle existing demand around. So new is not a defensive strategy against competition. It is a mechanism for aggressive territorial expansion.
It is how you grow.
Now, there is one more tactical masterclass in this section that we need to unpack.
Let's do it.
When you are in the better phase, when you are actively trying to optimize your marketing machine, you are faced with dozens of different metrics.
So many metrics.
You have ad click rates, landing page views, email open rates, checkout cart abandonments. It is completely overwhelming.
Paralysis by analysis.
Yes. But the source text provides a golden rule for prioritization. Front is greater than back.
Always. Without exception, optimize the front of the funnel first.
This principle is essentially the application of constraint theory to marketing. Think of your lead generation system as a physical funnel.
Okay.
The front of the funnel is the absolute first touch point a stranger has with your brand.
It is the image on the Facebook ad, the headline of the article, the first 3 seconds of the video hook.
Right. And the back of the funnel comprises the later steps. The pricing page, the email follow-up sequence, the checkout button.
Right.
The natural instinct is to fix the back first because that is where the actual money changes hands.
Right. People think, my checkout page is ugly. I need to redesign it so people buy.
Why is that the wrong priority?
Because the front of the funnel acts as the ultimate mathematical constraint on the entire system below it.
Okay, run the math for me.
The math is unforgiving. Let's say you have an ad running. 1% of the people who see the ad clicked on it to visit your page.
1%, okay.
Of that 1%, an incredible 30% end up buying your product. Your checkout page is performing beautifully.
30% is amazing.
It is. But the tiny 1% click rate at the very top is choking the life out of the system. If you spend a month redesigning the checkout page to get it from 30% to 35%, you've made a marginal gain on a tiny, tiny pool of people.
Because so few people are even getting there.
Exactly. But consider the alternative. If you ignore the checkout page entirely and focus all your energy on optimizing the front, you rewrite the ad headline, you test a more provocative image, and you manage to increase the click rate from 1% to 2%.
You have not just improved an ad metric.
No. You have literally doubled the absolute volume of human beings flowing into the top of the pipe.
And that doubling cascades down through every subsequent step.
Exactly. You just doubled your sales without touching the checkout page. A tiny fractional improvement at the very front creates a compounding tsunami of volume all the way down to the back.
The highest point of leverage is always at the front door. I love the clarity of that logic.
It simplifies everything.
It really does. Let's zoom out and recap the architecture we have built so far.
Okay, let's look at the big picture.
We have accepted the required mindset of paying the ignorance tax.
Check.
We are working the core 4. We are using the 9-word email to mine our warm network. We are publishing highly structured content units designed to capture strangers and compound an audience.
Yeah.
We know how to break through plateaus using the more better new framework.
Right.
And we know to focus all our optimization efforts on the front of the funnel.
We have a solid machine.
We do. But eventually, physics takes over.
It always does.
You only have 24 hours in a day. You only have 2 hands. Even if you optimize perfectly, you will hit a hard biological ceiling on your own capacity to generate leads.
And that biological ceiling is the threshold that separates a profitable lifestyle business from a massive, scalable enterprise.
Right.
If you want to cross that threshold and build something that generates tens of millions of dollars, you cannot be the only person turning the crank on the machine.
Which brings us to the operational phase of the text, building a machine with lead getters.
Yes.
We are transitioning from the tactics of what you do to the management of getting others to do the core 4 on your behalf.
And the source material categorizes these external forces into 4 groups.
Which are?
Customers who act as referrers, affiliates who sell for a commission, agencies you hire, and internal employees.
I want to laser focus on the 2 areas where entrepreneurs experience the most friction and waste the most capital.
Which is hiring internal employees and outsourcing to agencies.
Exactly. Let's start with building an internal team of lead generators. The author provides a very blunt, non-negotiable rule for hiring someone to run your lead generation.
The rule is hire experience, not potential.
Hire experience, not potential.
Yes. And this rule directly challenges a very popular romanticized notion in startup culture.
The blank slate idea.
Right. We are constantly fed the narrative that you should hire young, hungry, brilliant people who are blank slates and mold them into your company culture.
Hire for attitude, train for skill.
Exactly.
It feels good to be the mentor who discovers a diamond in the rough.
It might feel good, and it might even work for general administrative roles or like customer service.
Sure.
But lead generation at scale is not a general task. It is a highly sophisticated, operationally complex machine with 1,000 moving parts.
Like what?
It involves software integrations, tracking pixels, copywriting psychology, and heavy data analysis.
Right, it is highly technical.
If you hire someone with raw potential but zero specific experience, you're essentially asking them to invent an airplane from scratch while you pay their salary.
You do not have the time or the capital to subsidize their trial and error.
No, you don't.
The text is ruthless about this. It states that if you are interviewing a candidate for a lead generation leadership role and you are not actively taking notes and learning new things from them during the interview,
You're talking to the wrong person.
you are. You need to hire someone who can walk into the room, look at your messy systems and say, I have built this exact machine 3 times before. Here is what we are going to do.
You're buying their past mistakes so you do not have to make them yourself.
Okay, so that covers the leadership layer.
Yeah,
You hire an experienced manager to build the architecture.
right.
But what about the entry-level infantry? The junior reps making the cold calls, sending the direct messages, and grinding out the daily volume.
The grinders.
The text offers a pro tip for onboarding these new hires that sounds borderline draconian.
It really does.
The rule is, have the new hire shadow your absolute best, most productive team member. Figure out what that top performer's daily output is, and then mandate that the new hire double those inputs.
Yes. If your top sales rep is consistently making 200 outbound cold calls a day, the baseline expectation for the new hire on day 1 is 400 calls a day.
I am going to push back on this heavily.
I knew you would.
Because the immediate reaction from anyone who has ever managed human beings is that this is a recipe for a toxic sweatshop.
It sounds brutal.
If a veteran can only do 200, demanding 400 from a novice just sounds like a guaranteed way to burn them out and force them to quit within 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Furthermore, isn't sales an art form? Does sheer, mindless, brute force volume really negate the nuance, the charm, and the luck required to navigate a complex sales conversation?
The concern about burnout is entirely valid from a traditional management perspective. But we have to examine the underlying mathematical reality of skill acquisition, especially in a performance-driven role like lead generation.
Right.
Skill, the nuance, the charm, the ability to read a prospect's tone of voice that takes months or years to develop.
You can't rush that.
You cannot inject a new hire with 10 years of finesse on their first day. It is biologically impossible.
But the output.
Exactly. The output, the sheer physical volume of activity, requires zero skill.
Just dialing the phone.
It requires zero nuance. It
Yeah.
simply requires stamina and a willingness to dial the phone or type the message.
Right.
The new hire cannot control how good they are,
Right.
but they have absolute total control over how many times they try.
Volume negates luck. That is the phrase the author uses.
It is a mathematical certainty. Let's look at the numbers.
Let's do it.
Imagine you have a veteran rep who is highly skilled. They have a 2% conversion rate on their cold calls. They make 100 calls, they generate 2 leads. Now look at the terrified new hire. They are clumsy, their pitch is terrible, and their conversion rate is a dismal 0.5%.
Terrible.
But if you enforce the rule and they make 400 calls,
400 times 0.5%. They generate 2 leads.
they generate 2 leads. Through sheer unrefined volume, the novice has matched the output of the master.
The volume mathematically compensates for the deficit in skill.
Exactly.
That explains the immediate output, but the real hidden benefit of this strategy is the compression of time.
Explain that.
If the new hire is taking 400 at-bats a day while the veteran is taking 200, the new hire is accumulating experiential data at twice the speed.
Oh, that is huge.
They are failing twice as fast, getting rejected twice as fast, and adjusting their pitch twice as fast.
Precisely. They are paying down their ignorance tax at double the standard rate.
By demanding double the inputs, you are not just squeezing them for labor. You are forcing them to compress a year of learning into 6 months.
And the overarching philosophy here is that before a new hire is allowed to suggest new strategies, tweak the scripts, or get cute with optimization,
They must prove they can replicate the baseline success through pure volume.
The mantra is, replicate before you iterate.
Replicate before you iterate.
You must earn the right to innovate by first surviving the crucible of volume.
That is a harsh but undeniable truth about building a sales engine.
It is.
Now, let's pivot to the other side of the outsourcing coin. Agencies.
The agency trap.
Right. If building an internal team of cold callers sounds exhausting, the siren song for most founders is to just write a check to an advertising agency and let them handle the magic.
Just outsource the problem.
Exactly. But the author is very transparent about his own failures here. He admits to wasting massive amounts of capital, hundreds of thousands of dollars, playing the agency game early in his career and getting burned.
The agency trap is one of the most common pitfalls in modern business.
Why do people fail with agencies so often?
And the failure is rarely because the agency is malicious or entirely incompetent.
Okay.
The failure stems from a fundamental misunderstanding by the founder of what an agency is actually designed to do.
Founders treat agencies like a magic pill.
Yes, they have a broken business. They don't know how to get customers, so they hand an agency $20,000 and say, fix my lead problem.
They are abdicating responsibility under the guise of delegating tasks.
That distinction between abdication and delegation is the core issue.
Right.
If you do not understand how to generate leads for your own business, if you do not know what a good ad looks like, what the acceptable cost per click is, or what the conversion rate on your landing page should be, you cannot effectively manage an agency.
Because you don't know what good looks like.
Exactly. If you hire them to figure it all out from scratch, you are paying a massive premium for them to learn on your dime.
And if they fail?
If they fail, they will just point to the metrics they can control. They will say, look, we got you 10,000 impressions and 1,000 clicks. Our job is done.
Yeah.
If you didn't get any sales, your product must be bad.
And as the founder, you have no data to argue with them because you don't know how the machine works.
You are powerless.
The profound realization the author had, which cost him dearly to learn, is that you can only use an agency effectively if you have already mastered the lead generation process internally first. So you have to build the machine with your own two hands, prove that it works, and only then hire an agency.
Yes. You figure out the exact phrasing of the ad that works. You figure out the exact targeting. You optimize the landing page until it converts predictably.
Okay.
Once you have a proven, profitable, mathematically sound playbook, then you go to an agency.
But you do not ask them to invent anything?
No. You hand them your playbook and say, here is the exact machine that works. I want you to take your massive team and your specialized software, and I want you to run my playbook at 10 times the volume I can handle alone.
You use the agency purely as a multiplier for a proven process, never as an explorer to find the process in the first place.
It brings us right back to the Benjamin Graham lesson from the very beginning.
Never pay someone else to learn on your dime.
Exactly. You pay the ignorance tax yourself, and you pay the agency for execution scale.
Okay, we have covered an immense amount of ground.
A lot of ground.
We have unpacked the foundational mindsets. We have detailed the daily tactical grinds of warm outreach and the 9-word email.
We have architected the compounding asset of free content built for strangers.
We have explored the mathematical thresholds of the more, better, new scaling framework.
And we have laid out the strict rules for building a team of lead-getters without burning your capital.
The final question is integration.
Right.
How does an entrepreneur take this massive amount of theory, avoid getting paralyzed by the complexity, and map it out into a daily operational reality?
This leads us to the final section of the source text, which provides a functional roadmap for the rest of an entrepreneur's career. And it begins with a radical shift in how you view the workday itself. The philosophy is called working open to goal.
Working open to goal. Break down the mechanics of what that actually looks like on, say, a Tuesday afternoon.
Okay, well, most people operate on a time-based schedule.
Right, 9 to 5.
They sit at their desk at 9 a.m., and they stop working when the clock strikes 5 p.m. Their commitment is to the input of time.
The time served.
Yes. Working open to goal abandons the clock entirely.
How?
You do not stop working when a specific hour arrives. You stop working when the daily, mathematically required lead generation targets are actually hit.
Give me an example.
If your target is to send 100 cold emails and post 2 pieces of content and you finish at 2 p.m., you are done for the day.
Go play golf?
Go play golf. But if it takes you until 11 p.m. because you were distracted, you sit there until 11 p.m.
You are fundamentally restructuring your life around required outputs rather than inputs of time.
It forces absolute accountability to the metrics that actually keep the business alive.
And to facilitate this, the text advises a massive simplification of strategy.
Yes.
It tells you to throw away the complex, beautifully formatted, 100-page business plans. Forget the elaborate corporate vision boards that sit in a drawer gathering dust.
Those complex plans are often just sophisticated forms of procrastination.
They make you feel like you are doing business without actually generating any leads.
Exactly. The antidote provided is a simple, single-page advertising checklist.
The simplicity is the entire point.
Is.
A one-page checklist leaves absolutely zero room for excuses, cognitive dissonance, or entrepreneurial delusions.
You look at the piece of paper at the end of the day. Did you send the 100 warm reach-outs? It's a binary yes or no.
Did you publish the content unit with a hook, retain, and reward? Yes or no?
Did you spend 30 minutes optimizing the front of the funnel? Yes or no?
The naked, undeniable truth of your effort just stares back at you from the page.
It strips away all the vanity metrics.
It really does. It forces you to confront the uncomfortable reality of whether you actually executed the raw labor required to not be poor today.
Right, because as we look at the overarching philosophy synthesized across this entire text, the dominant theme is that real business is incredibly, unapologetically messy.
There is no clean, linear, cinematic path to success.
None. There is no magical strategy where every single ad campaign is profitable from day one.
Or where every 9-word email gets a positive response.
Or where every employee you hire is a superstar. Just doesn't happen.
The reality is a chaotic process of trying dozens of different variations across multiple platforms for a long enough duration to let the data tell you what actually resonates with the market.
Every failed ad that burns $100, every cold call where you get hung up on is not a defeat. It is a transaction.
You are simply paying down that ignorance tax we discussed at the start.
Which brings us to the closing fable from the source material.
Yes, I think this metaphor is the perfect, crystalline encapsulation of everything we have talked about in this deep dive.
It really ties it all together.
It is the fable of the many-sided die.
Walk us through the mechanics of the fable.
Okay, imagine you are sitting at a table in a casino, and you are playing a very strange dice-rolling game.
All right.
You have 2 dice sitting on the felt in front of you. One is a standard-looking 20-sided die. The other is a massive, incredibly complex 200-sided die.
Okay. 2 dice.
The rules are simple. On each die, only one single side is painted green. Every single other side is painted red.
So 19 red on the small one and 199 red on the big one.
Correct. And the absolute only goal of the game, the only way to win money, is to roll the die and have it land on green.
So the odds are heavily stacked against the player on every single roll.
The odds are mathematically brutal. And here is how this analogy maps to reality.
Let's hear it.
The amateur entrepreneur sits down at the table. They pick up the massive 200-sided die. Let's say that die represents a brand new cold calling campaign or launching a completely unproven product on a new platform.
A high-risk activity.
Right. They roll the die once, it lands on red. They roll it a second time, red again.
Of course.
They get frustrated, throw the die across the table, and declare, "This game is rigged, advertising is a scam, cold calling is dead, nobody buys things off Facebook anymore."
The amateur views the red roll as a personal indictment of their ability or as a fundamental flaw in the ecosystem.
Exactly. They personalize the statistical variance.
They do.
But the person who eventually builds the $100 million lead machine looks at those exact same dice, looks at those exact same red rolls, and realizes something profound.
What is that?
It is not a scam. It is not a rigged game. And it certainly isn't magic. It is just raw, emotionless probability.
It is an entirely mathematical equation.
Yes. If the objective is to absolutely, unequivocally guarantee that you will eventually roll a green side, what is the required action?
The required action is that you just have to roll the die enough times.
You just have to roll it enough. If it is a 200-sided die and you sit at that table and roll it 2,000 times, the laws of probability dictate that you are going to hit green multiple times.
Advertising, at its absolute core, is quite literally just rolling the die.
Every single no you get, every ignored email, every ad that doesn't convert, every red roll is not a failure.
No, it is a mathematical stepping stone that brings you statistically closer to the inevitable yes, the green roll.
The game is designed so that you literally cannot lose, provided you have the resources and the fortitude to never stop rolling the die.
And that ultimately is the journey we have been on today.
It really is. We started by accepting the absolute necessity of working for free or offering massive risk reversal to pay down our ignorance tax and earn our early case studies.
We learned how to quietly flick the flashlight in the dark room by using the low-friction 9-word email to mine our warm networks.
We dismantled our own egos, abandoned the inside jokes, and committed to building structured content units exclusively for strangers, turning fleeting attention into a compounding audience asset.
We learned how to break through revenue ceilings by applying brute force volume, followed by surgical optimization at the front of the funnel using the more better new framework.
And finally, we learned the harsh truths of scale. Hiring experienced lead getters and demanding the volume required to mathematically negate luck.
It provides a complete architectural blueprint for engineering visibility.
But having the blueprint is only half the battle.
Right. The blueprint ultimately requires the entrepreneur to confront some very uncomfortable truths about their own capacity for effort.
Which brings us to the final lingering thought I want to leave you with listening to this deep dive.
Okay.
We have spent this time establishing, with mathematical certainty, that lead generation is not some mystical art form reserved for creative geniuses or extroverted salespeople.
It is a structured game of probability.
And we have established that sheer, relentless volume mathematically negates the variance of luck.
The system works if the inputs are provided.
So if you are sitting there right now stressed about the trajectory of your business, if you are worried about making payroll next week, or if you are intensely frustrated that your beautifully crafted Grand Slam offer is sitting in the dark collecting dust while inferior competitors thrive.
We have to reframe the diagnosis.
We do. Your current lack of customers is not a marketing problem.
It is not an algorithm problem.
And it is not a branding problem.
If the math is undisputed, what is the actual problem?
It is a stamina problem. The machinery of lead generation works. The probability is absolute. The only variable left in the equation is your personal endurance.
That is a tough pill to swallow.
It is. So the defining question is not whether you can figure out how to find leads.
Right.
The real question, the one you have to look in the mirror and ask yourself when you wake up to grind tomorrow, is simply this. How many times are you willing to roll red before you inevitably hit green? So what if the only reason you aren't making the money you want isn't because your product is bad, but simply because people are completely, entirely ignorant to the fact that you even exist?
I mean, ignorant is a pretty heavy word to drop right at the start of a deep dive, but in the context of business, it really is the absolute baseline reality.
Yeah.
Because we all wake up at zero every single day. If you don't actively force the market to know about you, the default state of the universe is just to ignore you.
Right. And that hits right at the core of this very specific, really painful frustration. I mean, you see it constantly, right?
Right.
Someone pours their blood, sweat, and tears into building this perfect product.
Oh, absolutely.
They refine the service, they put in the late nights, and then they finally launch, expecting this huge flood of demand, and they are met with just a completely silent cash register.
It's deafening.
It is. It's soul-crushing. But flagging that reality is exactly what we are digging into today. The promise of the source material we're looking at is that you can actually transform a business from this stressful, unpredictable hustle into a relentless, predictable lead-getting machine.
Which is such an empowering shift.
So we are breaking down the foundational core of business growth, drawing from a framework that is completely dedicated to solving this obscurity problem.
And, you know, it matters so much because the architecture of making people know you exist, it's not some dark art reserved for these natural-born marketing geniuses.
Thank goodness.
Right. It is a mechanical process. So today we're going to walk through the only 2 universal ways to actually grow a company, and then we'll detail the 4 specific mechanical levers you absolutely must pull to flood your system with customers.
And we also have to talk about the hidden motivation, right?
Oh, yeah. We are definitely going to dissect the brilliantly hidden kind of Trojan horse motivation behind why the author of our source material is giving this incredibly valuable framework away for free.
Yeah, that part is wild. But let's start right at that baseline reality of obscurity. The blunt truth presented in the text is that if you are not getting enough leads, it is because you are not advertising enough. Period.
It really is that simple.
It is. The bottleneck isn't the quality of your work. It's that potential customers just don't know you're there. And that ignorance directly, mathematically, restricts the cash flowing your way.
Yeah, and if we unpack that, it's like entrepreneurs, by their very nature, are builders. They love to tinker.
Oh, Guilty.
Right. They love to stay in the lab, perfect the product, optimize the service, maybe endlessly tweak the website colors for the fifth time.
Got to make sure that shade of blue is
Yeah,
just right.
exactly.
Yeah.
But the source material forces a confrontation with a really uncomfortable equation, which is making known equals making money.
Making known equals making money. Okay, let's put an analogy to this. It's like you're throwing the world's greatest party, right? You've got a Michelin star chef catering it. You have this incredible live band, the perfect venue.
Sounds like a great party.
Right. But if you completely forget to send out the invitations, the room is going to be empty. You can have the best stuff in the world, but if no one knows it's happening, it doesn't matter.
And you could possess the most transformative, life-changing solution on the planet, but if the world is ignorant of it, the business fails. And the harsh reality is, the failure isn't in the product. The failure is entirely in the distribution of the message.
Yeah. And when I think about my own schedule in the early days of starting out, I realize I fell right into this exact trap.
Oh, I think we all do.
I would spend, I don't know, maybe 90% of my week obsessing over internal operations, like rewriting a mission statement that nobody was ever going to read,
Yeah.
and maybe 10% actually trying to tell the world what I was doing.
Because it's a really comfortable hiding place.
It is. If I'm working on the product, I feel productive, but I'm actually just avoiding the vulnerability of putting the offer out there.
That word right there, vulnerability, that is the exact psychological hurdle. Advertising is inherently vulnerable.
Yeah, because you might fail.
Because when you step out of obscurity and you declare, hey, I exist and I have this thing for sale, you invite rejection. You invite the possibility that people will see your amazing offer and explicitly say, no, thank you.
Ouch.
Yeah. But when you remain obscure, you are safe from that rejection. You can tell yourself this really comfortable lie like, well, if people only knew about my product, I'd be a millionaire.
But advertising actually tests that hypothesis in real time.
Exactly. So business owners subconsciously avoid advertising under the guise of perfecting the product. They go back into the kitchen to add more salt to the recipe, completely ignoring the fact that no one is even in the restaurant to taste the food.
Wow. Yeah, nobody is sitting at the tables.
And the author is ruthless about this dynamic.
Yeah.
Because advertising gives you endless chances to get it right. It actually allows you to have a subpar product initially, or to be terrible at sales, and still make money while you figure the rest out.
Wait, really? You can have a bad product and still win?
Well, win temporarily. Because if the volume of leads is high enough, you survive your own incompetence.
Oh, that makes sense. There's a direct sentiment from the text that says, having lots of leads makes it hard to be poor.
Yes.
It totally reframes the entire priority list. So for you listening, if you are facing a cash crunch right now, the immediate audit has to be your daily schedule. If you look at your calendar and the ratio of building to promoting is skewed heavily toward building, you have to flip that ratio today.
Which naturally leads us to the framework for how to actually execute that flip. The author distills business growth down to a very rigid, relentlessly simple binary.
Okay, let's hear it.
There are only two ways to grow a business.
Yeah.
Number one, get more customers. Or number two,
Get more.
get more customers or make them worth more. But wait, hold on. I'm going to push back here.
Go for it.
Because we've always been taught the leaky bucket theory, right? If your product has high churn or people only buy once and never come back, pouring more water into that bucket via advertising just burns cash.
Yeah.
So why would a smart business focus on getting more customers, focusing on volume, before fixing the hole in the bucket to maximize that lifetime value? And that is the classic standard growth strategy debate. Why pour water into a sieve?
Exactly.
But the author provides some really critical sequential context here. This specific material, this framework we're deep diving into, it doesn't exist in a vacuum. It actually sits atop the foundation of his previous work.
Right.
And his previous work was entirely dedicated to solving the stuff-to-sell problem. So he operates under the assumption that you have already created what he terms a grand slam offer.
So an offer so compelling and well-structured that the value far exceeds the price.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the premise is that the hole in the bucket is already patched. The product is undeniable.
Ah, okay. The sequence of operations matters. You absolutely do not scale a bad product.
Never. But once you have figured out how to maximize customer worth through a superior offer, the immediate existential bottleneck shifts entirely to volume.
Because if your bucket is sealed and every drop of water is retained, your only job is to find the biggest hose possible.
Yes, you must force strangers to find you. That is the fundamental function of advertising, forcing discovery. But business owners often get paralyzed trying to do both of these things simultaneously.
They want more customers and to make them worth more at exactly the same time.
Right, and they get bogged down in all this dense, jargon-filled strategic planning. They're trying to optimize retention by fractions of a percent when their top-line revenue is just starving for basic awareness.
It's like trying to optimize the aerodynamics of a car that doesn't have an engine yet. If top-line revenue is stagnant, spending 80% of your energy on marginal optimizations to customer lifetime value is a luxury you just can't afford.
It really is.
You need cash flow. You need to focus entirely on bucket one. So if we commit to that first bucket, getting more customers, how do we actually fill it? What's the mechanics?
So the author breaks this down into 4 distinct measurable metrics. This is the core lead framework. To get more customers, you have to increase 4 specific things.
Okay, what are they?
First, you need more leads. Second, you need better leads. Third, you need cheaper leads. And fourth, you need to reliably get them from lots of places.
Okay, more, better, cheaper, reliably. Let's pull apart the mechanics of each of those, because here's where it gets really interesting. It's kind of like fishing, right?
Oh, I like that. Let's hear it.
So getting customers is like fishing. You want more fish, which is volume. You want better, bigger fish, which is quality. You want to spend less on bait, so that's cheaper. And you want to fish in reliable, multiple ponds, so if one dries up, you don't starve.
That is the perfect analogy. So let's start with that first one. More leads, which in your analogy is just pure volume, the brute force of getting more eyeballs.
Just putting as many lines in the water as possible.
Exactly. Volume is the blunt instrument of business growth. The ultimate mathematical truth here is that if you do nothing else, literally nothing else, to improve your conversion rates, your sales skills, or your product.
You just stay exactly the same.
Right. But you simply double the amount of people who see your offer, you mathematically double your business. All else being equal, when you double your leads, you double your business.
It is the ultimate lever.
But sheer volume eventually hits a wall if the quality isn't there, right?
Yeah.
Which forces the transition to the second metric, better leads.
Right, because catching 100 tiny bony fish is exhausting, and it doesn't actually feed you. You spend all day pulling them off the hook, and you're still hungry.
Exactly.
You want to shift to catching the big tuna. But what actually defines a better lead, like mechanically speaking?
So a better lead is really defined by intent and purchasing power. It is someone who actively possesses the problem that your product solves. They feel the pain of that problem acutely right now, and crucially, they have the financial capacity to pay your asking price to remove that pain.
They actually have the money to buy the solution.
Right. And mechanically, you get better leads by tightening your targeting, improving the specificity of your messaging, or creating higher friction in your funnel.
Wait, higher friction? Meaning you actually make it harder for people to contact you?
Precisely. You add application forms, you ask for more data up front, you force them to jump through a few hoops.
That feels counterintuitive.
It does, because this actually decreases the volume of leads, right? That more metric goes down, but it drastically increases the better metric, because the people who make it through the friction are highly qualified. They really want what you have.
Okay, I see that. But then you run into the margin problem. If you are spending an absolute fortune to acquire those highly qualified leads, your profit just vanishes. Which naturally brings us to the third metric, cheaper leads.
Yes, customer acquisition cost, or CAC. You need to figure out how to catch those exact same high-quality leads using cheaper bait.
So how do you do that without losing the quality?
Mechanically, this involves optimization. You split test your ad creative to get higher click-through rates, which lowers your cost per 1,000 impressions. You improve the conversion rate of your landing page.
Oh, so instead of 1 in 10 people giving you their email, 2 in 10 do.
Exactly. And by doing that, you effectively have your lead cost without changing your ad spend a single penny.
That's powerful. And once you dial in the volume, the quality, and the cost, you have to protect the machine you just built, which is the fourth metric, getting them reliably.
And reliably is the capstone of this whole framework for a very critical reason. I mean, anyone can experience a transient spike in leads, right?
Sure, like a viral social media post.
Yeah, or a lucky feature in an industry publication, or just a sudden, unexplained word-of-mouth surge. But that is not a machine. That is a lottery ticket.
Yeah, you can't build a reliable payroll around the hope of a viral video. You can't tell your employees, Sorry, the algorithm didn't like us this week. No checks.
Exactly. It's the danger of the rule of one. You have one traffic source, one funnel, and one product. You have a business that is incredibly fragile.
Because if an algorithm changes or an ad account gets shut down, the business literally dies overnight.
The shift from amateur to professional is really the shift from hoping for rain to building an irrigation system.
Oh, that's good.
Relying on a single source of leads is just a massive vulnerability. True wealth and stability come from a predictable flow generated from diverse, uncorrelated sources.
So it's about building a system where you can predictably put a dollar into multiple different channels and get a multiple of that dollar out.
Yes. And if we look at our own businesses, we can usually diagnose our immediate bottleneck by scoring against those 4 exact criteria.
Okay, listener, this is where you come in. Challenge yourself to score your current lead generation right now. If you have plenty of leads, but they are all tire kickers who can't afford the service.
And you don't have a marketing problem. You have a better leads targeting problem.
Right. And if the leads are great, but acquiring them consumes all your profit margin.
You have a cheaper leads optimization problem.
And if you get cheap, fantastic leads, but only like 3 of them a month.
It's a more leads volume problem.
So identify your weakest link today and focus your next move entirely on fixing that specific broken metric.
And as you solve those specific metrics, you naturally elevate your operational capacity, which actually brings us to the underlying architecture of what the author is actually doing with all this information.
Yes, the hidden motive.
We've discussed the mechanics of his teachings, but the mechanics of how he is delivering this teaching is just a masterclass in modern business strategy.
This is the meta strategy. So I was reading this and it hit me. The author is writing a book about how to get leads, and the book itself is his lead magnet to get leads for his investment firm. It's like Inception.
It really is Inception.
Yeah.
Let's break down the actual math and the funnel mechanics of how this works, because it moves completely away from the traditional transactional model of selling information.
Right, because normally an expert with this level of framework would package it into a massive course, right, and sell it for $1,000, maybe $5,000.
Exactly. It's a direct transaction. You pay for the information. But the author explicitly states his goal is to help entrepreneurs who are making under $1 million in profit get to that $1 million mark entirely for free.
So why? What is the mechanical advantage of giving away your core, most valuable product?
Because he is operating within what we call the trust economy. His ultimate business is not selling books or courses. It is a private equity firm. He wants to buy equity in highly profitable scaling companies. If he charges $1,000 for the course, he creates friction. He limits the volume of people who will ever consume his frameworks.
Because not everyone has $1,000 to risk.
Right. But by making it free, or just the cost of a book, he maximizes the more leads metric for his own firm.
Okay, let's walk through the hypothetical math of that funnel just to see why it's so vastly superior to selling a course.
Let's consider the numbers. He spends heavily on advertising to sell a book at cost, or maybe even at a slight loss. Let's say he acquires a reader for $10.
Okay, $10 to get a book in someone's hands.
If he gets 1 million readers, that is a massive, massive pool of top-of-funnel leads. Now, a certain percentage of those readers will actually implement the frameworks.
Sure, maybe 10%.
And a certain percentage of those who implement will successfully scale their businesses past the $1 million profit mark.
And because they used his exact blueprints to achieve this totally life-changing financial result, he has earned absolute unbreakable trust. He didn't just promise value, he delivered it upfront, completely removing the risk.
Exactly. And when those businesses cross that 1 million threshold, they hit brand new operational bottlenecks.
Right. The problems change.
They need capital. They need executive recruiting. They need advanced scaling infrastructure. And at that precise moment, who are they going to partner with?
The person who got them there for free.
Yes. He has mathematically engineered his own perfect client base.
That is brilliant.
If even a fraction of a percent of his readers reach that level, and they allow his firm to buy a 20% equity stake at a favorable multiple, the return on investment absolutely obliterates what he would have made selling a $1,000 course.
It completely flips the traditional sales dynamic. He is acquiring customers at a massive loss on the front end, knowing that the lifetime value of an equity partner on the back end makes the initial acquisition cost basically irrelevant.
It's a rounding error.
He isn't asking for money. He is proving his value until the market demands to give him equity.
But, it requires extreme patience, heavy upfront capital, and absolute confidence in the efficacy of your core offering. But it is undeniably the most powerful way to build a massive portfolio.
He is literally showing you the lead machine operating in real time, with you as the subject moving through the funnel.
It's so meta. And beyond the pure financial mechanics, he notes a broader philosophical leverage, too.
Right, the world problems.
Yeah, he acknowledges he cannot personally solve global issues like hunger or disease or cancer.
Hmm.
But by empowering thousands of entrepreneurs to build massive, scalable, cash-flowing businesses, he is equipping the exact people who eventually will have the resources to solve those problems.
That concept of massive upfront value is something anyone listening can apply, regardless of their scale. So ask yourself, how can you apply this model in your own life or business?
It's a great question.
Can you solve a narrowly defined, meaningful problem for your prospects for free? Like completely removing their risk to give them an actual measurable win before they ever pull out a credit card.
Earning the right to solve their bigger problems for money later.
Exactly. But to execute that, you actually need a roadmap for implementation.
Yes, you need tactics.
And the author provides a very clear progression of mastery in the text, moving from 0 skills, 0 money, and 0 leads, all the way to maximum skills and maximum leads.
It requires learning what he calls the core 4 methods of advertising.
Right, and we really need to spend some time breaking down the mechanics, the pros, and the cons of each of these core 4 methods, because this is the actual tactical engine of the entire framework. Let's start with the first one, which is warm outreach.
So warm outreach is the most fundamental starting point. It basically involves reaching out one-to-one to people who already know you, your contacts, your past clients, your friends, your family.
The mechanics are super simple. You pick up the phone, you send a text, you send a direct message on Instagram, just saying, hey, I'm doing this thing now. Do you know anyone who might need it?
Right, and the primary advantage of warm outreach is that the trust is already established.
They know you aren't a scammer.
Exactly. So the conversion rate is typically the highest of any method because you aren't fighting the friction of skepticism. The cost is also 0, other than your time. So it is the absolute best way to get your first few customers and validate that your offer actually works.
But the downside is the ceiling, obviously. You only know so many people. You will exhaust your warm network very, very quickly.
It is definitely not a scalable long-term engine.
So once the warm pool dries up, you have to transition to the second method, which is cold outreach.
Cold outreach maintains that one-to-one communication style, but now it targets strangers. So this is cold calling, cold emailing, or sending unsolicited direct messages.
And this is where the vulnerability we talked about earlier really spikes, doesn't it?
Oh, through the roof.
Because you are actively interrupting someone's day to pitch them.
Mechanically, cold outreach is a game of volume and targeting. You need to scrape lists of ideal prospects, write highly personalized or highly compelling copy to break through their natural defenses, and send a massive amount of messages just to yield a handful of positive replies.
But the pro here is that the pool of strangers is effectively infinite.
Yes.
And you can precisely target exactly who you want to talk to. If you only want to talk to dentists in Ohio, you can find them.
Exactly. The con, obviously, is the abysmal conversion rate. People really hate being cold pitched.
Nobody likes it.
So you face massive rejection, and the time investment to send personalized outreach at scale, it's just exhausting.
Which forces the evolution to the one-to-many methods. The third of the core 4 is free content.
Now, free content shifts the dynamic completely. Instead of reaching out, you are attracting in. You are publishing podcasts, writing articles, posting videos on social media.
The mechanics here involve building a media engine. You are trading your time and your knowledge for attention. When you post a video, you do the work once, right? But it can be viewed by 10 people or 10,000 people.
And the massive advantage of free content is that compounding effect. A library of highly valuable content builds immense trust and authority at scale. It creates this inbound flow of warm leads who already view you as an expert before they even get on the phone with you.
But what's the catch?
The primary disadvantage is the timeline. Content is a long game. It can take months or even years for algorithms to favor you and for an audience to build to a point where it generates a reliable daily flow of leads.
Right. If you need cash tomorrow to make payroll, free content won't save you.
It absolutely won't.
Which leaves the ultimate scaling lever, the fourth method, paid ads.
Paid ads involve giving money to platforms like search engines or social media networks to force your message in front of a targeted audience. It is one-to-many, directed at cold strangers.
So the mechanics are purely mathematical here. You build a piece of creative, like an image or a video. You write the copy, you define the demographic targeting, and you bid for ad placement.
And paid ads are the most powerful method for rapid scale because they offer immediate feedback and infinite volume. If you put $1 into an ad platform and track that it generates $3 in profit, you can instantly scale that by putting in $1,000 or $10,000.
But the speed of growth is limited only by your capital and your operational capacity to handle all the new leads.
Right. But the catastrophic downside, of course, is the risk.
You can lose your shirt.
Very quickly. If your offer doesn't convert or your ad creative is weak, you'll burn through cash at an astonishing rate. Paid ads require a high level of skill to optimize that cheaper leads metric we discussed earlier.
So the progression of mastery involves moving through these 4 methods sequentially. You start with warm outreach because it requires no money and low skill.
Yep.
Then you move to cold outreach to learn how to pitch strangers and handle rejection. You build a content engine for long-term compounding. And finally, you use paid ads to pour gasoline on the fire.
But the text outlines that even if you master all 4 of these, you still hit a biological ceiling. You only have 24 hours in a day. You cannot write every cold email, script every video, and manage every ad account yourself.
It's impossible, which necessitates the final stage of the progression, recruiting what the author calls lead getters.
Right. To truly scale, you must transition from doing the advertising yourself to building an army of people who do it for you.
So this means hiring internal employees to run your marketing department, or maybe partnering with specialized agencies to manage your ad spend.
It also means building affiliate networks where other people promote your product for commission, or engineering referral systems to turn your existing customers into your most effective sales force.
It really reminds me of the progression of building a factory. Like you start on the floor, handcrafting the item yourself so you intimately understand the mechanics.
Right.
Then you build a machine to automate the crafting. And finally, you hire and train mechanics to run and optimize the machines while you just manage the overarching system.
That's a great way to look at it. But there is a massive trap here.
Uh-oh.
As you step away from the floor to manage the system, you lose touch with the very actions that built the company.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And that is the profound warning embedded in the text. There's this quote,
Mm-hmm.
"Masters never don't do the basics."
Actors never don't do the basics.
The sequential layout of this framework isn't just a primer for beginners.
Yeah.
It is specifically designed as a diagnostic tool to remind highly successful people of the foundational work they have abandoned.
Because success breeds complacency. When you have a VP of marketing and an agency running $1 million ad budget, you feel above sending a personalized video to a new subscriber or direct messaging a lost prospect.
You think, oh, that's busy work now. But businesses rarely stall because the macroeconomic environment shifts overnight or a competitor suddenly outsmarts them. They stall because the entrepreneur gets bored with the repetition of the basics.
They become arrogant.
Exactly. They want to focus on high-level strategic partnerships or brand architecture or visionary planning. And in doing so, they stop executing the unsexy, grinding, daily lead generation tactics that built their initial momentum.
They stop publishing the consistent content. They stop reaching out. The foundation cracks while they are entirely focused on painting the roof.
It's the classic scenario of the CEO who stops talking to customers. You lose the pulse of the market. The friction of the front lines is what informs the entire strategy.
Mm-hmm.
And if you insulate yourself from that friction, the machine eventually just runs out of gas.
So if you are running a business right now, you have to look closely at your daily habits. Look in the mirror. What is a basic hustle or lead gen tactic you relentlessly executed when you were hungry, but you've stopped doing simply because you got comfortable?
Go back and do it again today.
Reconnect with the dirt under your fingernails.
Because that foundation is the only thing supporting the entire architecture. So if we synthesize everything we've dissected today, the soul of this material is really a massive paradigm shift. Business growth is not a mystical art.
It's not magic.
No, it is not a lottery reserved for the uniquely charismatic or the deeply connected. It is a highly mechanical, step-by-step process of systematically removing obscurity.
And by internalizing that ignorance is the true enemy, and by deliberately manipulating those 4 levers, more, better, cheaper, and reliable leads, you take total control.
You stop being a victim of market conditions and become an engineer of your own growth.
You transform the business from a state of constant stressful hustle into a predictable machine. And the most compelling lesson is the structure of the delivery itself.
Oh, absolutely.
By giving you this blueprint for free, the author isn't just telling you how a lead machine works, he is showing you one in real time.
It is the ultimate alignment of theory and practice.
It really is. So we now know exactly what problem we're solving: obscurity. We understand why doubling the volume of leads is the ultimate non-negotiable lever for scale. We know the 4 metrics to optimize, the mechanics of the core 4 methods, and that incredible overarching trust economy strategy.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We have. But this entire architectural blueprint hinges on one fundamental definition that we haven't actually settled yet.
True.
Now that we know why we need them, the obvious question becomes, what actually is a lead? Because as we'll discover in our next deep dive, the way most people define a lead is completely wrong, and operating on that false definition is costing them a fortune. Until next time, keep digging deeper.
What if the reason you're not, making enough money right now isn't because you don't have enough leads, but actually because you've been tricked into collecting the absolute wrong kind of leads?
Yeah, it's a terrifying thought.
Right. Just think about that for a second.
Yeah.
You might be pouring your money, your time, your own sanity into this bucket that just has a massive hole in the bottom.
Exactly.
And all because your fundamental definition of, what you're actually looking for is just completely flawed from the start.
It's incredibly common, though. For any business owner, we spend our days obsessing over, the sheer volume of our data.
Oh, totally. The vanity metrics.
Right. The size of our email list, the number of followers, and we just completely ignore the actual human intent behind those numbers.
Yeah.
And that blind spot, that is exactly where the friction in your sales process and honestly, the massive loss of potential revenue, where all that originates.
And that is exactly what we are tackling today. So welcome, everyone. Our mission for this deep dive is to explore a really specific foundational concept from Alex Hormozi's framework.
Yeah, this is the core stuff.
It really is. We're diving into section 2 of his work, which is titled Get Understanding. And over the next, hour or so, we're going to break down the critical difference between a time-wasting lead and a money-making lead.
Which is a distinction a lot of people they don't make.
No, they don't. And then we're going to walk through the exact, psychological steps you need to take to create a mechanism that literally forces strangers to show active interest in what you do.
Right.
Because for anyone listening who is, trying to grow a business or an entrepreneur, this is the foundational step before you spend a single dime on advertising.
Getting this right is, it's just paramount. Before you write a single piece of copy, before you launch a campaign, you have to understand this distinction. Because if you build an acquisition model on top of, a flawed definition of a lead, the entire structure is going to wobble. And then eventually it'll just collapse under its own weight.
Collapse entirely, yeah.
We're really talking about establishing the bedrock of your business here.
Okay, so let's unpack this. The source material starts with this incredible admission that I think, honestly, a lot of people will find comforting.
Oh, absolutely.
The author himself.
Right.
Someone who has built massive, highly profitable companies, notes that for 6 months, he couldn't give a straight answer to a seemingly basic question, which was just, what is a lead?
Which is wild to think about.
It's crazy. He was completely stumped. And to frame this struggle, the text brings in a concept from Dr. Richard Feynman, the Nobel Prize-winning physicist.
Right. And the Feynman principle is such a powerful lens to view business through. Richard Feynman wasn't just a brilliant physicist who worked on, the Manhattan Project.
Right, quantum electrodynamics and all that.
Exactly, all that heavy stuff. But he was famous for being an unparalleled teacher.
Yeah.
His core philosophy was basically that if he couldn't take the most complex, mind-bending concepts in quantum mechanics and explain them in simple terms, like terms that a freshman college student could grasp,
right,
then it meant his own understanding was flawed. He couldn't hide behind jargon.
And applying that to lead generation is just brilliant because, honestly, in the business world, we love to hide behind complexity.
Oh, we thrive on it.
We do. We build these massive dashboards with all these flashing red and green numbers. We obsess over our CTR, our click-through rate, or we panic about our CPC, the cost we pay per click.
Like we're analyzing telemetry on a spaceship or something.
Literally, like we're at NASA.
And we use those acronyms, CTR, CTC, CPA, cost per acquisition, all of it, to mask the fact that we often don't truly understand the core human interaction that's actually taking place.
Right. We just look at the numbers.
Exactly. We commoditize the metric rather than looking at the outcome. I
Yeah.
mean, we are taught by the entire marketing industry to buy clicks or, to buy impressions.
Yeah.
But a click does not have a wallet.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Right. An impression does not have a real-world problem that needs solving. Only a human being does.
Okay, but wait. I struggle with this, though. Let's ground this in reality for a second, because I want to push back a little.
Sure, go for it.
If I'm running like a small marketing agency, right, and I need cash flow this month to make payroll, I don't really care if the lead is purely human intent.
Okay, I see where you go.
Like, if I buy a scraped list of 10,000 email addresses and I just blast them all statistically, maybe 3 of them will accidentally need my services right then and they'll buy.
Right.
Isn't a volume game just as valid when, survival's on the line? Why is that technical definition of lead as just data not good enough?
Well, that volume game is the exact trap most entrepreneurs fall into when they are desperate. And it's a very dangerous illusion.
Dangerous how? Like short-term versus long-term.
Exactly. Let's look at the hidden costs of that strategy. When you blast 10,000 scraped emails, you aren't just sending data, you are interrupting 10,000 human beings.
Yeah. Okay, fair.
First off, you destroy your domain reputation, meaning your future emails are just going to go straight to spam, which cripples your long-term communication.
Oh, right. The tech algorithms will just punish you.
Absolutely. And second, think about the toll on your sales team.
Having to call those people.
Yeah. You are forcing them to sift through, 9,997 people who are annoyed, indifferent, or actively hostile toward your brand?
Because they never asked to be contacted.
Right. And the cost of processing that dead data, it burns out your staff, it wastes your time, and it heavily degrades your brand standing in the marketplace.
So the 3 sales you get aren't worth the damage.
Exactly. You might make payroll this month, but you are systematically destroying your ability to make payroll next year.
Wow. Okay, that completely shifts the perspective.
Yeah.
We're acting like it's like being an amateur fisherman.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
Like sitting on the boat and counting every single time the wind makes the bobber twitch on the surface of the water and just completely ignoring the fact that there's no actual fish on the line.
Yes.
That twitch could be a current. It could be like a piece of seaweed bumping it. But if I go home and tell my family, hey, great news, the bobber twitched 500 times today.
They are still going to ask, okay, but what's for dinner?
Exactly. What's for dinner?
Because you cannot eat a twitching bobber, just like you cannot make payroll with a spreadsheet of unengaged email addresses.
Man, that hits hard.
It does. And when your definition of a lead relies purely on those vanity metrics, my seaweed bumping the line, the accidental click, the scraped email, you are optimizing your entire business for the wrong outcome. If you are listening to this right now and realizing your team is tracking form fills or page views instead of actual human intent, well, that's actually great news.
How is that great news?
Because it means fixing that one definition is the lowest hanging fruit. It's the fastest way to stop burning your ad budget and your team's energy.
Okay, so if a simple Feynman-approved definition is required, we basically had to distinguish between who is just casually looking, the seaweed, right, and who actually wants our help.
Exactly.
And the source material does this in a wonderfully disarming way. It uses these literal stick figure drawings to explain the psychology.
Which I love. It strips away all the corporate pretense and forces us to just look at raw human behavior.
Yeah. So on one side of this diagram in the text, you have a regular lead. And it is just a stick figure walking along with a thought bubble above its head that just says, meh.
Yeah.
It's completely indifferent. Exactly. But then right next to it, you have an engaged lead. And this stick figure is fundamentally different. It's holding up a piece of money, and its thought bubble says, pick me.
And the contrast between meh and pick me is literally the entire secret to profitable advertising.
Break that down. What's happening psychologically there?
Well, let's deconstruct that meh state for a moment. When a stranger is just a regular lead, they are just living their life.
Right.
They are scrolling through their phone on a crowded train. They are thinking about their groceries, their kids, their commute. They are in a baseline state of complete indifference toward you and your business.
Because we have to be, right, to function.
Exactly. We filter out 99% of the stimuli around us just to survive the day. So when you try to force a sale on a meh lead, you are interrupting that survival mechanism.
You're an annoyance.
Exactly that. You are an annoyance. You are pushing a boulder uphill because you are trying to sell a solution to a person who hasn't even consciously realized or admitted that they have a problem worth solving.
You know, it reminds me of a physical retail environment.
Oh, yeah. Go on.
Think about someone just mindlessly walking past a storefront window on a really busy street. That's the male lead.
Yes.
They might peripherally notice the lighting in the window. They might catch, like, the color of a sign out of the corner of their eye, but their physical momentum is just carrying them forward to the coffee shop down the block.
Right.
You can count them on a clicker as foot traffic, but their presence on the sidewalk means absolutely nothing to your cash register.
Not at all.
But an engaged lead, the pick-me, is the person who stops, looks at the window display, physically pushes open your front door, walks in with their wallet out, and makes eye contact to ask, hey, do you have this specific item in a size 10?
Yes. And think about the difference in how you, as the store owner, treat those two people.
Oh, it's night and day.
Right. You wouldn't run out onto the sidewalk, tackle the pedestrian walking by, and scream in their face, "Buy my shoes!"
That would be insane.
It would be absurd, not to mention illegal. Yet, that is the exact digital equivalent of what businesses do every single day when they blast unsolicited offers, aggressive pop-ups, and cold pitches to unengaged leads.
They're just tackling people on the digital sidewalk.
Digital tackling. It feels gross for the business owner, and it feels completely violating for the consumer.
It really does. It's a lose-lose scenario.
But when someone walks into your store and asks a question, your posture changes completely. You don't have to tackle them. You become a guide. You become a helper.
Yeah.
Your advertising goal, therefore, is not to force a transaction out on the sidewalk. It is simply to put something in the window that is so compelling, so relevant to their secret desires or problems, that it gets the stranger to stop their momentum, raise their hand, walk through the door, and show active interest.
Okay, so you aren't forcing a sale, you were engineering intent.
Engineering intent, exactly.
Okay, so the $100 million question is, how do we actually get them to stop walking and raise their hand? Like, how do we get them to walk through that door? The text points out that it starts with the absolute micro level of exactly what we say to them, the specific words we use in our messaging.
Yes.
And there's an A/B test mentioned in the material that I really want to spend some serious time on, because the tweak was completely minuscule, but the psychological shift was massive.
The subheadline test, yeah. This is a masterclass in the behavioral economics of language and copywriting.
Okay, so the author tested a couple of different phrases for like a landing page or an ad.
Right.
One phrase was, get strangers to want to buy your stuff. Pretty straightforward, tells you what the product does.
Sure.
But the one that overwhelmingly beat it, the clear winner that captured all the intent, was how to get strangers to want to buy your stuff.
Just adding how to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They also tested a third variation, which was how to get more strangers.
Yeah.
But taking the word more out and just leaving how to get strangers to want to buy your stuff was the ultimate victor.
It's fascinating. We really need to look at the hidden mechanics of language here to understand why this happened.
Yeah, please break this down.
And why did how to win so decisively over the word get? Because adding those two tiny words changes the fundamental power dynamic between the speaker and the listener.
The power dynamic.
Yes. Think about it. The phrase, get strangers to want to buy your stuff, is an imperative. It is a command. It is you, a stranger, telling another stranger what they need to do.
And nobody likes being bossed around by a billboard.
Exactly. Psychological reactance theory actually proves this.
Reactance theory.
Yeah. When humans feel their autonomy is being threatened, even by something as small as a digital ad telling them what to do, they subconsciously put their guard up.
Oh, they push back.
They push back. We resist commands from strangers as a basic defense mechanism, but the moment you add how to, everything shifts.
Because it's not a command anymore.
Right. It ceases to be a command and transforms into an invitation. It becomes an offer of a solution, a roadmap, a shared journey.
Oh, that's good.
How to implies that there is a secret, a method, or a tool that you possess and are generously willing to share.
Right. It positions you not as a dictator shouting from a pedestal, but as a mentor walking alongside them.
Precisely. You are offering to bridge the gap between their current frustrating reality and their desired outcome.
Okay, that makes total sense. It lowers the friction.
Yeah.
But here's where it gets really fascinating to me, because my intuition was completely wrong on the third variation.
The one with the word more.
Yes. What about the word more? Because how to get more strangers to want to buy your stuff sounds much better to me initially.
You think so, right?
Everyone wants more, right?
Right.
More money, more leads, more success. Why did taking the word more out actually improve the conversion rate?
That comes down to cognitive load and the purity of the message.
Okay.
When you add the word more into the headline, you are inadvertently adding a prerequisite to the promise.
A prerequisite. How so?
Think about the phrasing. How to get more strangers implies that the person reading the ad already has some strangers buying their stuff, and this product will just, increase the volume.
Oh, it assumes a baseline of current success.
Exactly. But what if the person reading the ad is a complete beginner? What if they have 0 strangers buying their stuff right now?
Then they read it and think it's not for them.
Bingo. Suddenly, they read the word more, and their brain says, oh, this isn't for me. This is for advanced people who already have a baseline. You've accidentally created an exclusion zone.
Wow. So by trying to sound better and promise bigger results, you actually alienate all the beginners.
And if you strip it down to the absolute essentials, just how to get strangers to want to buy your stuff, you remove all of that friction.
Right.
You streamline the message so it applies equally to the beginner who has 0 leads and the 10-year veteran who is looking to scale from 1,000 leads to 10,000.
That is wild.
Small changes like removing a single limiting word make massive differences because they widen the net of relevance without diluting the core promise.
So if you're listening to this right now, the immediate takeaway isn't just theory. Look at your own landing page today. Look at your social media bios, your email subject lines, your ad copy.
Yes, audit all of it.
Are you unconsciously commanding your audience? Are you shouting at them from the digital sidewalk with imperative verbs?
Probably.
Or are you offering a how-to solution that invites them in as a willing participant? Because just adding those 2 words and removing prerequisites could literally be the difference between a meh, scroll past, and a pick-me, raised hand.
It is the subtle shift from pushing your agenda to pulling their interest. You want to pull them into your ecosystem with an irresistible invitation.
Okay, so let's say we fix the messaging. We've got the perfectly tuned sign in the window that says how to. We are no longer tackling people on sidewalk.
Good. Step 1 complete.
Now, once you have their attention, once they've stopped and looked at the window, you need a mechanism to actually capture that pick-me energy.
Right, you need them to come inside.
You need to solidify that raised hand and get them to walk through the door. And the text says you need a lead magnet like a specific offer to do this.
This is the critical handoff point in the psychological journey. You've created the desire with the headline. Now you must provide a tangible vessel for that desire.
A vessel.
Because if you just have a great headline and no mechanism, the intent dissipates into the ether. They say, cool idea, and they keep walking.
And the source material actually gives us a highly tactical step-by-step checklist for creating this magnet.
It does.
Now, playfully, I have to point out that the source text actually omits step 1 in this specific section.
Oh, yeah. It literally just jumps right into step 2.
Maybe step 1 is wake up and decide to be awesome. Who knows?
Yes, have a business.
Right. But let's look at the vital required steps it does outline to build this mechanism of intent. Step 2 is figure out how you want to solve it.
Which means you have identified the problem your how-to headline addresses. Now, what is the actual shape of the solution you are providing?
Okay, give me an example.
Well, it must be highly specific to the problem. If your headline is how to save 5 hours a week on email, the solution can't be a vague philosophical essay on time management. Right? Nobody wants that.
Exactly. It needs to be the exact template, the specific checklist, or the precise software script that achieves the result. You have to define the mechanism of the cure.
Right. It has to be tangible.
Yeah.
And that leads directly into the next phase. Step 3, figure out how to deliver it.
And delivery is where you have to obsess over the lifestyle of your target demographic. The medium has to match the user.
This is so overlooked.
It is. If your target audience consists of busy executives commuting on a train, an hour-long video presentation might be the worst possible delivery method.
Yeah, they don't have the time or the Wi-Fi for that.
Exactly. They don't have the bandwidth or the environment to watch it. Perhaps a quick scannable PDF infographic or a 5-minute private audio podcast they can listen to with headphones is better.
Right.
Conversely, if you are targeting software developers trying to learn a new coding language, an audio file is useless.
Because they need to see the code. Right. They need to see a screen share video or a text-based code repository. The delivery must match the consumption habits of the meh, lead to lower the barrier to entry as much as humanly possible.
Make it fit seamlessly into their existing life. Don't ask them to change their habits for you.
Never ask them to change their habits.
Then we have step 4. Make the name interesting and clear. And this ties right back to the how-to principle we just talked about, doesn't it?
It really does. And a major mistake here is trying to sound overly sophisticated or proprietary.
Oh, marketers love doing this.
Business owners love to invent complex names for their frameworks. They will call their lead magnet the synergistic paradigm matrix for optimized inbox management.
Which means absolutely nothing to a stranger on the internet.
It creates instant cognitive load. Clarity always beats cleverness in direct response marketing.
Always.
If a prospect has to spend even 2 seconds decoding what the name of your lead magnet actually means, they will give up and go back to being meh.
So what should you call it?
Just call it the 5-minute inbox zero template. Tell them exactly what is inside the tin.
Exactly what's in the tin. Okay, now we get to the really juicy mechanics. Step 5, make it easy to consume. Step 6, make sure it's darn good. And step 7, tell them what to do next, why it's a good idea, do it clearly, and do it often.
The big 3.
I really want to spend time here because these feel like the steps where everything either comes together and works or just completely falls apart.
And the data supports that perfectly. Steps 5, 6, and 7 are where the vast majority of lead magnets fail, and consequently, where millions of dollars of advertising budgets are just incinerated every year.
Oh, easily.
Let's really analyze easy to consume. People often operate under the false assumption that to show immense value to a prospect, they need to give away an encyclopedia of knowledge.
Yes, the mega course.
Right. They think, I'll give them a 200-page ebook or a 14-module video course as my free lead magnet. That will prove how smart I am.
And they think people will be so grateful.
But remember the fragile psychological state of the prospect at this exact moment. They just barely raised their hand. They are curious, not committed.
They just walked in the door.
Yeah.
They aren't ready to buy the whole store. They just want to know if you have their size in one specific shoe.
Exactly. And if you hand a merely curious person a 200-page textbook, you haven't given them a solution, you've given them an obligation.
Homework.
You've essentially handed them homework. And when a lead magnet is too dense, too long, or takes too much effort to get through, the lead immediately loses interest.
Yeah, they download it and put it in that one folder on their desktop.
The folder they will never open again.
Never.
They close the tab, and you've lost the momentum of their intent. The true value of a lead magnet is not in its length or its weight. It is in its ability to provide a rapid, frictionless micro-win.
A rapid micro-win. Man, that makes me think of the food court at the mall.
Oh, the food court analogy. I love this.
Right. You go when you are walking through the food court and the person from the chicken place is standing out front in the aisle holding a tray.
That is one of the most classic, time-tested marketing mechanisms in physical retail.
Exactly. That tray is a physical lead magnet. Now imagine if you walk by, and instead of a little bite on a toothpick, the worker handed you a frozen, rock-solid block of raw chicken and a detailed recipe card.
Just plopped it in your hands.
Yeah, and they said, here, go home, thaw this overnight, marinate it for 3 hours, bake it at 400 degrees for 40 minutes, and then you'll see how good our chicken is.
That would be absurd. It is incredibly hard to consume. It requires massive effort on the part of the prospect just to experience the baseline value.
It's terrible. You'd throw it in the nearest trash can and go buy a pretzel.
Right.
But that is exactly what a 200-page ebook or a massive video course is to a stranger on the internet. It's a frozen block of raw chicken.
It really is.
You are making them do all the work to find out if you were any good. Instead, the food court genius gives you a hot, delicious, perfectly sauced bite of chicken on a toothpick.
Yeah.
It requires zero effort on your part. You don't need a fork. You don't need to cook it. You don't even need to stop walking. You just open your mouth and chew. That is step 5. Easy to consume.
And that translates perfectly to the digital space. Your lead magnet should take less than 5 minutes to consume and deliver an immediate hit of dopamine or relief.
5 minutes.
5 minutes tops. And that brings us directly to step 6. It has to be darn good.
Right, because if that one bite of chicken on the toothpick is cold, soggy, and tasteless, you keep walking.
Exactly.
You assume the rest of the food is terrible, too.
The lead magnet is not just a cheap bribe to trick someone into giving you their contact information. It is an audition.
An audition.
It is the very first tangible proof of your competence in the marketplace. We have to understand how to actually measure if something is darn good before we launch it to the world. You can't just guess.
But how do you measure it? What's the metric for darn good?
You measure it through consumption and reaction metrics. If you give away a 5-minute video, look at your video hosting analytics. Do 80% of people drop off after 30 seconds?
Ouch.
If so, your hot bite of chicken was actually frozen. If it's an email template, look at your welcome sequence stats. Do they reply to your automated email to say thank you?
That's a great test.
Because if your lead magnet is fluffy, generic garbage that they could have found with a quick Google search, the prospect instantly assumes that your expensive paid products are generic garbage too.
Oh, that's brutal but true.
If it is not darn good, you have successfully collected an email address only to immediately burn the relationship. You've proven to them that you aren't worth their time.
Okay, so let's say we nail it.
Right.
They eat the delicious hot piece of chicken. They love it. They experience that rapid micro win.
Awesome.
They are fully in the pick-me state. The intent is peaking. Now what? That brings us to the final hurdle, step 7.
Step 7 is arguably the most vital step of all, and honestly, it's where people suddenly get shy.
Right. Tell them what to do next, why it's a good idea, do it clearly, and do it often.
Let's go back to your food court worker. They don't just watch you eat the bite of chicken, smile, and then stare at you in awkward silence while you wipe your mouth.
No, that would be so weird. As soon as you nod your head and say, wow, that's good, they immediately capitalize on it.
Yes.
They literally point a finger directly over their shoulder at the cash register and say, we have a lunch special right now, combo number 2 with a drink. It's just $6. Step right up to the register.
Step 7 is the bridge from the raised hand to the eventual customer. Once you deliver the micro win with your easy-to-consume, darn good lead magnet, you have earned the right to make an ask.
Right, hoping they find it.
You tell them, now that you have your inbox organized, the next step is to build an automated workflow. Click this big red button to book a 15-minute call with my team, and we will build it for you.
Very direct.
You explain exactly what to do. You explain why doing it will solve their next logical problem. You ensure the button is massive and obvious. And you put that call to action on every single page of the PDF, or you mention it at the end of every minute of the video.
Do it clearly and do it often. You can't assume they will figure out the customer journey on their own.
Never assume that. A raised hand doesn't stay raised forever. The arm gets tired.
Yeah.
The prospect gets distracted by a text message or an email. You have to strike while the intent is high, while the flavor of the chicken is still in their mouth, and guide them seamlessly to the next logical step in your funnel.
So if you're listening to this and mapping it onto your own business, here is the harsh but necessary reality check.
Oh, this is the important part.
You need to pull up the lead magnet you are currently running right now. Ask yourself, is this a hot bite on a toothpick? Or is this a frozen block of raw chicken?
Right.
Does it actually solve a highly specific problem? Is the delivery method frictionless? Is the content undeniably valuable?
Is it darn good?
Exactly. And, most importantly, does it explicitly, without any confusion or subtlety, tell the prospect exactly what they need to do next to get more of that value?
If it fails on any of those fronts, you need to tear it down and rebuild it using these steps.
Rebuilding it is the only way to ensure you are actually constructing a mechanism that captures engaged, high-intent leads, rather than just hoarding useless data in a CRM system that will never, ever convert.
Absolutely.
So what does this all mean when we put the pieces together? If we step back and look at the totality of Section 2, get understanding. The ultimate insight of this chapter is a massive paradigm shift for how we view marketing.
It really changes everything.
Advertising is, at its base level, simply the process of making your business known to the world. But true, sustainable, profitable business growth, that requires generating active interest. Volume of data, your regular scrolling, leads, means absolutely nothing. Volume of intent, your pick-me, engaged leads, is the only metric that actually matters.
It changes your entire operational model. It's the shift from frantically collecting people to intentionally connecting with them.
And you achieve this deep connection by executing on 2 very specific fronts. First, you simplify and reframe your message. You move away from commanding strangers, and you move toward inviting them, utilizing the powerful psychology of the how-to framework.
Right.
And second, you offer undeniable, easy-to-consume value through a properly structured lead magnet that proves your worth and competence before you ever ask them to open their wallet.
The mechanics sound so simple when they are distilled down like this, yet it is the exact opposite of what 99% of struggling businesses are doing every day.
It's sad but true.
They are out there shouting at the sidewalk, hoarding vanity metrics, handing out frozen chicken, and wondering why the store is completely empty.
Well, if you apply the steps we've covered today, you won't be doing that anymore. Your store will start filling up with people who actually want to be there.
Exactly.
But this is just the beginning of the journey in this framework. Now that you know how to craft the right message to invite them in, and you know how to build the specific mechanism to get them raising their hands with a great offer, how do you actually get that offer in front of enough people?
That's the next big hurdle.
How do you actively go out into the world and force those strangers to find you in the first place? That is exactly what we will uncover when we crack open the core 4 of lead generation in our next deep dive.
And before we get there, this raises an important question for you to take away today, something for you to deeply consider about your own business operations right now.
More question?
Look at the free resources, the lead magnets, or the initial offers you currently give out to strangers. Be brutally honest with yourself. Are they actually a rapid, frictionless shortcut for your prospect to experience a win? Or are you accidentally giving them homework? Because if your lead magnet feels like a chore, you aren't building engagement, you're just building friction.
What you just listened was the beginning of a full audio, way longer, explaining every single chapter of the book. If you would like to keep listening to the end and access to the full audio, you can access it with the link down below in the description and in the pinned comment.